Hello and welcome to Talkernate History, the podcast where we,
Matt
and Max, talk about works of alternate history scenarios, and history in general. This episode, we're talking about a fine film and sort of kind of two other fine films. Missing in Action.
Fine.
Fine indeed. So we just watched Missing in Action 1 and then watched most of Missing in Action 2 and really super skimmed through Missing in Action 3.
Braddock, Missing in Action 3.
That's like Rambo, First Blood, Part 2.
Rambo, Second Blood, Part 8.
Because the first Rambo movie's First Blood. It's
Well,
not
just
Rambo.
First Blood.
Yeah.
Rambo, First Blood, Part 2. Rambo 3. Is it just Rambo or Rambo 4?
I think it's just Rambo is Rambo 4.
And then Rambo Last Blood, which is outrageous. I've seen it. I showed you the end of that movie.
Yes, that looks insane.
The part where he carves out the man's heart out of his chest. What a movie.
What a
What
film.
a joint.
What a kino.
Yeah, I know. That's a real picture. That's when people talk about making a picture.
A moving picture. I was so moved by this picture.
Yeah,
yes.
I was moved by this picture to leave the theaters.
Oh, you want to talk about a picture that moved me? Missing in Action.
Oh my God.
Holy moly. This is a Vietnam movie with Chuck Norris and a very similar premise to Rambo First Blood Part 2 in that it's about going into Vietnam to find POWs.
Yeah.
And this movie actually was capitalizing on Rambo 2 because Rambo 2 was in production and they churned this movie out super fast to get it done faster.
To release it first.
Yeah, to capitalize on Rambo exploitation before the concept really even existed. It's very similar to the Judge Dredd movie and The Raid. Those two movies are kind of plot-wise similar, and that's because The Raid was made super fast to capitalize on the Judge Dredd
and
movie.
also there was Armageddon and that other movie,
Deep Impact.
Deep Impact, that came out at the roughly the same time. Yeah, so this movie was released, Missing in Action, 1984.
Yes.
Rambo 2 comes out 1985.
Mm-hmm.
So these are like peak classic when you think of 80s crazy action films, because 1985 is also Commando, which to me is like one of the peak 80s action films.
Yeah, that's one of the crystalline classic examples. And RoboCop was 84, right?
I think RoboCop's like 87.
Really? Okay.
Because
All
like
right.
Die Hard is I think 88.
Well, that's right. Yeah, because RoboCop 2, I think that might be 1990, 91, something like that. And RoboCop 3 is, of course, awful 90s trash. That's just absolute garbage.
I've only seen one part of RoboCop 3, and that's where there's like this crazed-looking ninja walking around and RoboCop shooting him. But it's not even Peter Weller. It's someone else's RoboCop.
Yeah, it's some other dingus. I don't think he even takes his helmet off because, like, ugh.
So yes, Missing in Action. So this is peak like one-man army classic 80s action films.
A almost completely invulnerable main character who's walking around just blasting people left and right. Almost no harm comes to him. Very little reloading. There's some. All three movies, there's a little bit of reloading, but not a ton.
Only at like when it looks good. There's never like no one in movies, they don't ever really reload when it
Right. This is very true.
because at the end of the day, it's entertainment. It's not documentary.
Everyone loves the fact where you have the tiny, crappy little submachine guns and you're shooting them with the giant muzzle flare, but nobody wants to see them sitting with that long magazine, very slowly putting 9mm bullets into it over the course of like 15 minutes.
Have to use like a special loader device to like push it down.
We fired a MAC-10 together at one
We
point.
have, yeah.
Yeah. And loading that.
It was pretty badass, I'll tell you. I did like that try to aim it. And
Sights are...
and it was just like, no, just fire from the hip. Just
it's fine.
45. It's like it is a bullet hose, but it really is probably only good for like knocking off a liquor store.
RoboCop style.
You couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with that damn thing.
You think you're pretty smart.
But yeah, you're right. You fire it and you're like, that's so much fun. Time to reload the magazine, and it's just like, okay. They don't show this isn't part of the action movie where they show the hero loading all the magazines.
Oh, Braddock.
So yes, James Braddock. So
Yes.
so Chuck Norris is in this. Carlos Norris.
Carlos. When you told me that earlier, I couldn't believe it. That he's Carlos.
And apparently he's named after someone his father knew. He's not Hispanic.
It's like an Omar Bradley situation.
Yes.
Okay. Because Omar Bradley is not in any way Arabic. It's just
No,
he knew
he's
a guy named Omar. His dad knew a guy named Omar that he liked. So
So Carlos Norris, I guess he was already famous by the time these movies got made for like kung fu movies, right?
yeah. He has a movie with Bruce Lee, The Octagon. He's in The Octagon. A bunch of kind of cheesy 70s movies. So he was already an established action movie star at this point.
But this really put him on the map.
Yeah.
And this was made by Canon Pictures or the Canon Group.
Yes.
Which is and they love to pump out movies really fast.
Yeah.
Canon Group movies are like, Chuck Norris made a ton of them. I think he had like a pretty rock solid contract with them. So he made Invasion USA, which is a movie I do want to review on this because it's time.
I think The Great Death Wish 3 is also a Canon movie.
Probably,
I'm pretty sure.
or
yeah.
Death Wish 4 or 5 are almost certainly.
Yeah.
Canon Group run by Menachem Golan and Golan-Globus.
The patriotic Golan-Globus, yes.
That's right.
Oh, they made Cobra.
Oh, God, what a movie.
film.
Yes.
What a damn
Cultists banging together axes in giant steel foundries. Yes.
The New World. The great Brian Thompson is in that movie. He's so awesome. He's in so many Star Trek episodes. It's crazy.
Man's got to make a living somehow.
Yeah, he's in X-Files also.
So, okay, so Max, we've
Yes.
circled the drain on this one. What is Missing in Action about?
So we've talked around it, but Missing in Action, it's about a man we see at the beginning of the movie. He's in Vietnam. There's a firefight somewhere at some time. It's not clear. Many things about the intro is unclear, but we
Other
see
than him mowing down people.
Right. It establishes the important things. This is a man who shoots people with guns.
He kills people real good.
Real good.
And also, they're fighting, so they're PAVN forces. So that's like the North Vietnamese, the NVA, regular army. But this movie, I think, was filmed in the Philippines, like a lot of Vietnam movies of that era, because the Vietnamese have M14s and M60s. They have kind of a weird assortment of AK-47s and American weapons.
And even there was a light machine gun, an M60, that had the belt on the wrong side. You pointed that out.
I think it's a flipped image. I think the image is flipped. It has to be, because
Okay.
the M60 only feeds from the left side.
Right.
Not the right.
Well, it's not like it's even firing anyway. If you look closely, you can see they're just jiggling the chain.
That's right.
the bullets, yeah. Our boy Braddock, Chuck Norris, is walking around shooting a whole bunch of people. They're like getting evacuated. So there's all these helicopters coming down and picking guys up and leaving. But Chuck Norris is staying behind because he wants everyone to get out. So he wants to be on the last helicopter. And at one point, there's one guy who's getting stabbed with a bayonet. And this should be super serious, but it's just kind of comical because Chuck Norris is doing nothing. He's just standing there.
He's sitting in he's in like the second story
like a
of
hayloft of a barn or something.
Yeah. And these two guys got shot by a Vietnamese guy, and he comes over with a bayonet, and he's just stabbing their bodies.
And then Braddock decides the best way to stop this from happening is to not pick up the gun he just had or pick up a pistol. It's to pull the pins on 2 grenades, hold them in both hands, let the spoons go off, and just jump on the guy. And then he explodes.
And that's the end of the movie. Chuck Norris is missing in action.
Chuck Norris is killed in action.
Chuck Norris is total body disruption in action.
What did he mean by this?
And you're watching it and you're like, whoa, Chuck. I remember the first time we watched this a few months ago, we watched it and we were like, both like, what the fuck? He died? What? I don't remember that part of this movie. It is sublime.
Just
scene.
crazy. Absolutely crazy. But of course, so he blows up and then he wakes up, which the implications of that, was this a complete fabrication? Was this a dream? Did this really happen?
I think it was a dream.
It becomes more unclear later, but yeah, so...
And also, before I forget, one last thing on that first scene. Like, you see some of the helicopters picking people up, and like the PAVN use like an M60 to just blow one up. But
yeah,
it has skulls on the landing skids.
That's right. I was looking up trivia for this movie, and apparently in the commentary for this movie, the director talks about how, yeah, I thought something that would be kind of cool is if we put skulls on the skids, and I asked some guys to get some, and they brought me some skulls that seemed very authentic. And I couldn't help but think that there's not a whole lot of Halloween stores here in the Philippines, so I'm still not sure what that was all about. So those might be real human skulls, as crazy as that sounds.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's get into the meat of the matter, which what underlies the basis for this movie and for Rambo 2.
That's right, because when Braddock wakes up, he's watching the news, and it's apparently 24/7 coverage about this concept, which was actually pretty popular back in the 80s, borderline mainstream, sort of a conspiracy theory that there were still living POWs in Vietnam held in bondage alive, and that the Vietnamese government was denying that it was happening.
This was a huge issue in the 80s and into the early 90s. It kind of petered by the early 90s, but like it wasn't like a every day on the news sort of thing, but like there were a lot of people who were convinced that there were still American POWs being held by the Vietnamese.
Yes.
And we will do a lot of talking about why this is kind of a little hard to wrap your head around why that would happen, but
right.
I mean, the whole POW MIA flag that you see, I think that comes around about this time.
I think it was in that kind of twilight zone between Vietnamization was in effect. We were pulling out of Vietnam, but we weren't all the way out of Vietnam. And I think there was a public outcry that we have loved ones who are missing. We have loved ones who are in bondage, and you need to free them. And it's very important that you do it as quickly as possible. And that was a sticking point in the Paris peace negotiations for, peace with honor. Like, we need all of our POWs back. It's very important that we get them back.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the Vietnam War, there was a classification called POW/MIA. And this was a new concept as far as I'm concerned. It didn't exist in the Korean War or World War II. In World War II, if a bomber went down over enemy territory, everyone inside was considered to be KIA, body not recovered. And if they turned out to be alive, that was like, oh, okay, they're alive. It's a bonus. They're back. But by the time of Vietnam, if a bomber went down over enemy territory, the people inside would most likely be classified as being POW MIAs, which is to say they're either a prisoner of war or they're possibly deceased or alive. No one knows where they are. And unfortunately, that's kind of a branding issue, because when you think POW MIA, you think a guy who's alive.
Prisoner of war, alive, sitting in a camp, man on the MI, the downtrodden head in the camp, in the stockade, Stalag Luft, Rambo 2. I mean, that's what you think.
That's what you think. And you don't, like, when I was a kid, missing in action, I always thought that was a living person, but it's not necessarily. In fact, most of the time it isn't. And unfortunately, because the assumption became that the person is alive, misconceptions kind of grew out of that. So people would assume, okay, my loved one is a POW MIA.
That means they're alive.
Yeah, they're alive. Yeah.
Because that's the assumption people want to make is my child, my spouse, or however your relation to them is, they're alive rather than dead. And by framing it like that, everyone's now going to assume, because they want to assume the best, is that, oh, they must be alive.
Right. And you were just talking about, someone who was a POW and their family thought they were dead for years, correct?
I know someone who's...
You knew someone who knew someone.
Yes, I knew someone whose parent was one of the people who was released in 1973, who was held in the Hanoi Hilton.
Operation Homecoming.
And they told me, I asked them when I found out about it, I never knew this for a long time. Mm-hmm. And they told me, well, I thought my father was dead for like the first 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. I forget. For a period of time, they lived their life thinking their father was a pilot, was killed in action. And it wasn't until later that word got out that they were actually alive. So this person was in, I forget, it was somewhere between 5 and 8 years in prison. And that's the thing, is that we forget, is like, and I want to talk about this as we talk about the whole POW MIA. People were talking about, oh, it's the 80s, they're still prisoners of war. But there were people who were released in 1973 who'd been prisoners for like 8 years. I mean, John McCain was a POW for like 6 years.
Crazy.
That's longer. That's how long a U.S. is involved. December 7th, 1941, for like 3.5 years, a little over 3.5 years in World War II. Double that. That's how long. Because I think, too, is that like the peak of Vietnam action, we think like ground force action is 65, 66 to about 1970.
Right.
There were American ground forces after 70, 71, but they were drawing down. Vietnamization was really big.
Al Gore was there.
Interesting enough, Al Gore was there in 1971, but the last major U.S. Army units, like ground force units, left in 71. I think there was a couple small infantry units left into 72, but most Americans left after 71 into 73 were like support or aviation.
Right.
There really was very little in the way of ground forces.
And most of the POWs were aviators. They were pilots.
Yeah, because they were shot down over North Vietnam. They were Navy or Army pilots shot down over North Vietnam. There were some ground forces people captured. I know there was a Medal of Honor winner. Is it John Caviani, who was a Green Beret who was captured? But I remember reading his story and then thinking it was unusual because when you think of the Hanoi Hilton, you think of James Stockdale, John McCain, people like that who were pilots who were shot down in missions over North Vietnam.
Right. And an explanation that I've been given is that during the Johnson administration, LBJ's people downplayed the POWs. They didn't mention them very much. When the Nixon administration came into power, they kind of did the opposite thing. They played up the POW issue. They platformed the families of people who were POWs, and they made it an important sticking point of getting peace, is that we need to have our POWs back. And they referred to them, I believe, as POW MIAs when they talked about this. Yeah. So the government talked about there being 1,400 POW MIAs. Well, Operation Homecoming runs around, and they only have 591 who come back. And people are like, where's the other 800 or so? Like, what's going on here? Something's not quite right. Well, the unfortunate thing you have to say to those people is that, well, they're deceased. They're not prisoners of war because they died, and we don't know where they are. We haven't recovered their bodies yet. And that discrepancy with the number is really the germ of this idea that Vietnam, the People's Republic of Vietnam, is lying. They're not really being honest with us about the prisoners. There's more out there, and we have to find out where they are and save them. That's what Rambo 2 is all about, and that's what this movie is all about. Yeah. So Braddock wakes up, he's watching the news, and they're talking about this issue. They throw out a number, 2,500 living people still in Vietnam. I don't know where that number came from.
No, and I think the number varied, and I think that people, they didn't trust the government in the wake of Vietnam and Watergate.
In Watergate, frankly, yeah. During the Ford administration, there was the CIA, the congressional hearings, and then there was airing of a lot of bad things that the CIA had done, lowering trust even more. And the death of RFK, the Carter administration, so many bad things happened.
That's right. Mondale. Oh, God. Mondale.
Jerry Brown, so many things.
Governor Moonbeam, Jerry Brown, who becomes president of the United States in my Schwarzkopf Iraq story. But and the thing is that so you've got so obviously this number, this discrepancy, this 800 number, and there's actually a germ of it too, which is, and I was, when we were doing some episode notes, I was talking about, like, I think Americans are particularly sensitive to this idea that prisoners of war have been left behind.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously in, like, World War I and World War II, like, all of our POWs came back.
Yes.
That's why, like, the Marines never leave a man behind. Like, that really resonated with people. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't leave anyone behind. We want the boys to come home from the foreign battlefields that are far away.
Right.
And this is a good example, is within the last 10 years or so, actually a little bit less, how many people did we trade to get Bowie Bergdahl? Remember that?
A lot of people. Quite a few. I'll look it up.
It's like when the Israelis have, like, cut deals to release prisoners, they'll release like 100 prisoners for one person, stuff like that. So the Americans already have this, but there also were a few incidents, real life incidents, that feed into this. So first of all, the CIA is doing a lot of operations in East Asia after World War II.
So they don't want to be totally honest about where people are, what they're doing.
Yeah. And you have stuff like Air America, and you have the operations in Cambodia and Laos, which are already secret operations. Other than the Cambodia invasion in 1970, there's a lot of Americans running missions in these countries, and they may be getting killed, and their families may not be getting told about. John Birch, the start of the John Birch Society. He was like an American
in China.
Who's killed. But there's some particular incidents that stand out about Americans actually being held after combat. So starting in the Korean War.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll relate it back. At least, and this is something that's not really well remembered, at least 4 American fighter pilots were shot down in Manchuria rather than North Korea, were kept after the Korean War ended. So the Chinese position was that there was supposed to be no combat over Manchuria, and actually American fighter pilots were limited. They could not go into action in Manchuria. A lot of them violated that during the Korean War. So at least 4 were shot down. And they were held until May of 1955.
What?
Almost 2 years after the war ended. And the reason why I know about this are those Aces books. Because there's 2 stories in one of them about 2 of those pilots were aces. One was a guy named Edwin Heller, who was actually a World War II ace who shot down a few planes in Korea. and then a guy named Hal Fisher, who was an actual double ace, 10-kill ace in the Korean War. So both of them were shot down over China. So they were kept by the Chinese government as like war criminals, basically. And they were tried, and then their punishment was, after being found guilty in some show trial in Beijing, was to be expelled. So they were held for almost 2 years after, because everyone else who got captured, got released in 53.
And this is okay. So this is like specifically against China, not against Korea,
Yes.
because you were shot down over China.
They were shot down over China. So like Americans who were captured at the Chaosen Reservoir, they were released in like July, August, September 53.
Huh.
Whereas these guys were held until May of 1955. And I remember the first time I ever read that story, I'm like, what?
I'm shocked by that.
And they kind of went on because there's only 4 of them. And the more pressing example, and this one would be much more pertinent to Vietnam. This is, again, something that's kind of forgotten about, is the Mayaguez incident. The SS Mayaguez incident happens in 1975, a couple weeks after Saigon falls. So South Vietnam is done.
The Ford administration at this point.
Ford administration. Jerry Ford played too much football without his helmet on, is what someone once said. Actually, he's apparently a very nice person, and he was a very nice person in real life, and a pretty decent man.
I've read a lot of his biography, and I like him. I like the guy. He's a Ford, not a Lincoln, as he famously said about himself at his inauguration.
But subject to the most humiliating thing a man can say, I lost to Jimmy Carter.
I was made fun of by Chevy Chase.
You know, the funny thing is he actually was like one of the most athletic people to ever be president, like in the goofy, like him falling down the stairs thing. Like he was a football player at the University of Michigan.
He could have played in the NFL.
He could have, yeah. But he didn't. No. So getting around to this. So the Mayaguez incident, 1975, the Khmer Rouge government impounds a U.S. flagged ship off the coast of Cambodia and holds it off of this island off of the coast of Cambodia, and Gerald Ford orders the Marines into action. They recover the ship, and they land on this island, and they actually encountered some pretty heavy resistance. They rescued, I think, the crewmen, but it was something like 20 or 25 people were killed, including a bunch who died in like a plane crash on the way there. It was kind of a disaster. It's akin to the rescue operation that the Carter administration tried to do in Iran, right. Operation Eagle Claw, which was a complete disaster.
Totally bad.
So Mayaguez incident, they rescue the people, they get out. 3 U.S. Marines were left behind by accident.
That's
a machine gun crew, an M60 machine gun crew at one of the beaches they landed on, got left behind. And those Marines were captured by the Cambodians, and they were later executed by the Khmer Rouge government within the next couple months afterwards. And their bodies, it took until like the 90s or 2000s. And for a long time, people were like, what happened to them? So there is the germ of this, is that there were a couple incidents where people were being held afterwards.
There was also in North Korea, they seized a boat.
The Pueblo.
Yeah, the Pueblo. If you go to North Korea, they can bring you to this ship.
And be on the next plane over.
They rub it in your face. Like, aren't you mad that we still have this ship?
And people are like, what? This happened?
This ship that was probably commissioned in the 1920s or something.
The Puebloans, yeah, exactly. You had stuff like that. I mean, and the thing is, there actually were some incidents of like U.S. planes there was a couple U.S. planes who were shot down off like the Chinese coast. I guess you find it on Wikipedia, but there's like a list of like actual shooting incidents between like the Soviet Union or China and the U.S. And there were things like this happening. So there is a germ a seed for people to latch on this issue.
Yeah, people hate the idea of Americans being in prison and being forgotten, being abandoned by America.
And we hate the idea even of so like this is something interesting I learned when I went to those American cemeteries, when I went and did like the battlefields tour, the World War II stuff, is that so any American who is killed overseas in World War II, the U.S. government said they would repatriate their bodies at no cost to the families if the families wanted them repatriated. And I think it was something about 65 or 70% wanted them. And if you elected not to, their body would be buried in a U.S. cemetery. So all U.S. soldiers who were buried in World War II cemeteries, including my relative that I've mentioned before, that was by choice. A family member of mine chose for his son to be buried there. We found the election form, actually, which was interesting.
Do you know why they chose?
It could be any reason. Some people would have said it may have been like, it's too hurtful, or I want them to be with their comrades. So any American soldier who's buried, if you go to if you ever get the chance, go to the one at Colville, the beautiful cemetery that overlooks Normandy. The one in Luxembourg is remarkable. I highly recommend you go to the German and British ones in Normandy too, because the British ones have like personal inscriptions. I may have mentioned this on a previous episode.
I don't think you did. Yeah.
The British ones have like these beautiful personal inscriptions. It's a smaller cemetery in Bayeux. It's right outside the town. You can walk there if you're staying in the town. And you go in and they have the individual regimental emblems for each person. So it's not like, see the American ones have just like the standard crosses, but like the British ones have like personal messages. And some of them are like very, very, it's like parents, their messages to their children messages to their parents. And the German one's interesting to see because there's like 30,000 people buried in the German cemetery. They're like three to a grave, and a lot of them are unidentified because they were killed in like fallets and stuff like that.
Right. But the German MIAs, the German POW MIAs.
Well, think about all the German POWs who were, and again, remember, the Soviets kept German POWs until 1955.
It's crazy.
And there actually were Japanese POWs, including about 15 years ago, a Japanese guy turned up in Ukraine who was captured on Sakhalin Island.
What?
And he just never left.
Oh my
God. And these people just kind of got reintegrated into the Soviet Union. And like, he couldn't really speak Japanese. And he like showed up at the Japanese embassy and was like, I was a Japanese soldier in World War II.
That's insane.
But there's the thing is that, so there are incidents where POWs, I even read in one of those ACEs books, there was a claim, there's a one of the stories is actually not about flying. It's about an ace who got shot down and spent like 9 months in a prisoner of war camp in World War II. And he claimed in it that U.S. pilots who were shot down near like Soviet lines in World War II were kept until like 1946 by the Soviets. That I'd like to figure out if that's true or not. But
we must make you sign a confession for crimes against the Soviet
Union. Yes, exactly. But the point is that you had a lot of people for whom obviously Vietnam is this horribly divisive war, and you have all these people whose the bodies of their children. So basically, long story short is that we want our men to come home.
Yes.
So like Britain, the war dead are buried where they're killed. They don't bring them back. And part of that is because, well, we're just across the English Channel. But for the U.S., like, like in my family, like when we visited my relative who was killed, we believe we were the first people ever in my family to go and visit him in person.
All these decades later.
Yeah, there was someone else may have. But the point is that it's far away. And for many people, we want the boys to come home.
Yeah.
And I think that, when you have, unfortunately, where the government is like basically telling people like, oh, these people are captured rather than they almost certainly were killed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a third of the number of POW MIAs turned out to actually be alive, but still, yeah. And of course, Vietnam being a defeat is another part of this complex about like, oh, our government was so desperate to end the war, they were willing to sell out our own people, that kind of idea, which of course wasn't true. But people could make that conspiracy theory in their mind to explain, why there would be people left behind. So it's a very interesting issue. Of course, it's outside of the popular consciousness
currently, because this was a huge issue in the 80s. This was a big issue. It was one of those things that was crop up every once in a while, and you had people who were very adamant about it.
Even in '92, Ross Perot was running for president. And he was a big POW MIA guy. He would finance these fact-finding missions to illegally cross the border and like snoop around Cambodia.
He said he was going to flap his ears into wings and fly over, take those big ears and fly over. No, but particularly the name Bo Greitz is probably the name. He was like one of the
spelled like grits, but not pronounced that way.
With some very particularly interesting political beliefs. Not great, gonna say. But he like led an expedition to like Laos to look for
didn't he sell a bunch of T-shirts on the way, so it wasn't all that secret or something? Something crazy.
Well, they were
that.
He's like, we're taking this giant. It was like Vietnam War veterans. We're gonna go over to Laos to find why the Vietnamese government would hide POWs in Laos, a different country.
And like, I tried to send you an article, but I don't think you could read it. I found an article.
It was behind a paywall, and I couldn't get around it.
Stupid paywalls. But the Washington Post in 1992, there was an op-ed where the guy was saying, turns out Ross Perot's probably right about the POWs, and we shouldn't give him a hard time for all this stuff back in the day. And
are we sure Ross Perot was right about it?
Are you sure about that? Like, remember, this is 92, post-Soviet Union falling.
Yeah.
So when Yeltsin took over, there were people who were saying, Yeltsin, did any American POWs get transferred to the Soviet Union from Vietnam? Because eventually it became a little bit hard to reconcile, because there were these search parties. They asked the United States government. They did their own fact-finding missions. They, of course, have access to satellites and spy planes. and probably human intelligence inside of Vietnam that can look into this kind of thing, and they came up with nothing. There was a congressional, John Kerry and John McCain investigated this.
Yeah, it was a huge commission that was set up, and they said there was no evidence found to substantiate the idea that any American prisoners of war were kept after 1973.
And then the conspiracy theory then splits at that point. There's two explanations. One, well, they didn't find anything because they're in the Soviet Union right now, or they were in the Soviet Union, or the U.S. government's in on it.
Why? And that's the thing in Rambo 2, explicitly that's the implication.
Right.
It's a little less so in Missing in Action.
Yeah.
But kind of hinted at. In Rambo 2 it's explicit.
Yeah.
Like that they're like, we're covering this up.
I'm coming for you.
Murdoch, find them or I'll find you. What a great movie.
What a film.
We thought about reviewing that one, but I think reviewing Missing in Action and then reviewing Rambo 3 is a whole other a whole other can of worms. That's worth. So,
Rambo 3 stands alone in my opinion. That's its own thing.
There's two scenes in that movie that are just like, one of them I think is like the height, maybe the greatest scene in
of
movie.
cinema.
Maybe one of the greatest scenes in movie history, but we will get to that when we review that movie. But yeah, and the point is, but remember also with Ross Perot, James Bond Stockdale was his running mate.
Yes.
Who won a Medal of Honor for his actions as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. But you had a lot of people who were absolutely convinced, and unfortunately there was a lot of people who kind of grifted onto this idea, like in Thailand and other places in Southeast Asia, who'd come up with like, oh, look at these dog tags I found. You know, I was in Cambodia and I found these dog tags of this guy. He must be alive. And why? Because they were preying off people. Unfortunately, these family members and people would pay lots of money to them to recover evidence and things like that. And you know, the names of the people who were missing. There was something I saw was on YouTube where someone was talking about this, and like the names of the missing were known, so someone could make a fake dog tag.
Yeah, it's not
stuff like that.
It's not hard to fabricate evidence. It's not hard to fabricate evidence of this kind of thing, and that's, I mean, we want to be clear. I mean, sometimes we're irreverent and we kind of joke around at stuff, and we're going to continue to make fun of this conspiracy theory, which has been pretty much completely debunked. The idea that they were still living POWs, but we want to hasten to clarify that we don't want to mock the families of these people who were misled by these grifters into believing that their family was still alive and that they were just over the border. They were being eternally tortured all the time, and we just need to go over there and find them. I mean, it's beyond tragic.
No,
what
it
these
is.
people went through.
And it was the tragedy of Vietnam not going away.
Yeah,
you know?
The wounds not allowed to heal. They're just opened over and over again because they could still be there. They could still be alive, and I have to do something. Like if one of your siblings or like one of mine went missing 2015 over northern Syria, and they're probably dead. They're probably dead, but maybe there's a 1% chance that they're in ISIS captivity right now. You would probably be driven crazy with concern for them.
Yes,
and you
absolutely.
would jump to those conclusions, and your mind would go to those dark places, and you might latch on to people who would lie to you for money just because out of desperation and out of hope for finding your loved one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's very understandable why this happened.
Yeah.
You look into some of the underlying assumptions of it, and they're like, they're not.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But
doesn't make sense.
It's very understandable why people were thinking this.
Yes.
Because we left Vietnam kind of in disgrace. And that was the thought that we lost Vietnam. I mean, Vietnam fell. The 70s, the mid 70s is kind of like the high tide in some way of the Soviet Union. So the Soviet Union's on an upswing, the communist world on an upswing after World War II. It kind of levels out for a bit.
Big Brezhnev is in charge.
But then the 70s, I mean, there was some huge communist victories. I mean, Vietnam, the U.S. is humbled. It's funny, if you watch like James Bond movies from that time, like the Soviet Union is considered to be very powerful and advanced and stuff like that. And while Roger Moore is off shooting lasers in space, take a big step for mankind, Drax.
Joe Don Baker is helping them out.
Exactly. Oh my God, that's right. Because we watched
The Living Daylights.
Which is actually, this may be controversial. We're off topic, but I think the Timothy Dalton Bond movies are actually better than people give them credit for. They're not amazing. They're not the best ones, but they are. I think they actually are better than I remembered. I remember them being terrible, and I rewatched them, and I was like, actually, they're not as bad.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty fun. We should talk about Living Daylights when we do Rambo 3. because they're kind of connected with Afghanistan.
They are. Oh, yes, they are. But so what we've got here is, so yes, obviously we've got, so this POW issue, big issue, and I mean there are people today who probably will still claim it, but let's talk about this movie, and then we can talk about some of the associated reasons why it's kind of hard to believe that the North Vietnamese, or the Vietnamese, I guess at this point, would ever keep prisoners of war.
Yeah, the question of why will be asked
and
endlessly.
The implications of this movie, I can't wait to discuss them at the end. The implications of the end of this first movie is wild.
Absolutely wild. But anyways, so James Braddock gets woken up from his dream of himself exploding, and endless POW coverage is on television. Wakes up in the morning, walks over to the refrigerator, starts drinking beer.
Coors.
A nice Coors, yeah.
Colorado Kool-Aid.
Oh my God, is that really what they call it?
I've heard someone call it that.
Fantastic. Homeboy Braddock, he walks over to the TV, changes the channel, starts watching Spider-Man cartoons.
That's right, yes. Vibro Shock, something about...
I think that's the Shocker.
The Shocker.
The Shocker.
And he's escaping from prison, which is relevant.
It's all, there's a helicopter, just like later in the movie. I mean, it's like poetry, it rhymes,
It does.
It's all set up. But anyway,
Spider-Man 3 poetry.
What a film, let me tell you. But Braddock turns the TV back to the news, and the coverage is continuing. They're actually talking about Braddock himself, and they say this guy Braddock, he claims he's escaped from a POW camp with other people, and that he's insisting there's more camps in Vietnam. So right off the bat, we live in a different universe right here, where there should be pretty definitive proof that there was POWs alive in Vietnam after the war concluded, because there's Chuck Norris and assumably other people. We'll see them in the next movie, but assumably he escaped with those guys, and they're also yeah. I mean, it's one thing to have one guy who claims it. Like I think the last POW to returned in like 79.
Yes, but you looked into this. No, you were the one who found this information, which was interesting. But there's a reason why it shouldn't be probably considered to be good proof of the POW MIA thing.
Yeah, this guy named Robert R. Garwood. He returned, and he kind of fed into the whole conspiracy theory of live POWs. But, and I don't want to say anything definitive because I think this guy is still alive.
He is still alive.
I don't want to defame the guy if anything's untrue. But I'm just going to say, according to Wikipedia, and according to the United States government, there's evidence that this guy was maybe working with the North Vietnam government, and that's why he didn't want to return, because it was embarrassing, but he still wanted to come back to America, so he came back and then invented these stories of, I was still in a POW camp after 73,
which is a lot more palatable than saying I was a collaborator.
Yeah, but again, I'm not pointing any fingers here, and the possibilities are endless. Who knows?
But I mean, to say this as we delve into this, there are no confirmed examples of people being found after the war, POWs, who confirm the underlying idea behind this, that there were American POWs being intentionally held against their will by the Vietnamese government.
There's no evidence. The only evidence is secondhand. I heard a rumor. I talked to a drug lord, Bo Greitz. He talked to some Thai or actually I think Burmese,
probably Burmese,
drug smuggler, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure there were guys." Yep.
There was a guy who was in like Delta Force who claims like, one of their first missions, like they were told they were going to go to Southeast Asia to like rescue POWs. But I'll be perfectly frank, is that I firmly believe that, given the Reagan administration in the 80s, if there really were American POWs there, I mean, that would have been a public relations coup. I think they absolutely would have sent them.
Because then, and then they could say, these previous administrations sucked, and we are the good one.
The final nail has been put in Jimmy Carter's administration after he's gone.
Damn it, he went too far with all those Japanese people. He should really...
That's right, Killer Carter.
I kind of briefly touched on it, but when Yeltsin came into power, people were like, "Where's the POWs?" And this was mentioned in that Washington Post article I was looking at in advance of this, that was written in 1992, and apparently he said, I heard a rumor that there might be some POWs here. Let's check the archives, and that's the end of it. And obviously, nothing came of it.
Yeah, because there weren't. There weren't Soviets, and that's the thing. Rambo 2 particularly, like the Soviets are behind it. Like the main bad guy is Colonel P.O.W.
And there's no Soviets in these movies. It's all Vietnam.
That's true. Missing in Action sticks with just the Vietnamese.
So, yeah. And I guess to kind of loop back to Missing in Action, sorry. We're stuck in Chuck Norris's apartment watching Spider-Man cartoons. Drinking beer, watching
Spider-Man. Oh, with your shirt open, not completely shirtless.
One of the many times he has no shirt.
Living in this shitty apartment.
Yeah, and basically they mention on the news that Braddock is a bit of a celebrity because he came back to America, but people don't believe his story. There's a lot of people, I guess maybe in the government, who say, it's not true. So they're doing this fact-minding mission. They're bringing the senator and a couple other people, some journalists and stuff, to go to the People's Republic of Vietnam to really figure out, are there any more POWs?
They're going to Ho Chi Minh City.
Ho Chi Minh City, yeah. And they land on the airstrip. They walk out on the tarmac, and who is there?
Lo Pan.
Lo Pan is here. The great James Hong is here.
He's awesome. Love James Hong.
His career, I think, goes back to the 50s.
Yeah.
And he was in a movie.
He was in the movie with the people who had hot dog fingers. I watched that on an airplane. I actually watched that on several airplane flights because it was too long of a movie. Is it
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once?
Is that? Yeah, I think so. Because I was thinking Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, but no, that's that very maudlin, sappy movie about the
9/11.
9/11, and it like
Tom Hanks.
And Tom Hanks, yes.
Yeah, the kid with autism.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Yes, it's also a hot dog finger movie. That's what the one.
The great Michelle Yeoh. She's awesome.
Yes,
I love her.
And also the kid who played Short Round. Well, now he's an adult.
Yeah.
It was a strange movie.
And Lo Pan as well.
But Lo Pan is there. James Hong, as of the recording of this episode, still alive, 95 years old, still going strong.
I love it. He's so great. He went to the Oscars just a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And he is General Tran or Tron.
I will just go with Tran.
One of those, yeah. And so he's one of the secondary antagonists of this film. And he tries to shake hands with James Braddock. Braddock's not having any of it. He's got no respect for this guy.
Yes, but the senator's just outraged that that
Senator Porter,
Maxwell Porter,
defaming the Maxes of the world. How dare you?
That's right.
How dare you? Because he's an idiot. He believes everything the Vietnamese says. He's extremely embarrassed by Braddock. He thinks, "Why did we even take you along, Braddock? Oh no."
Yeah. So they get there, and Porter's accompanied by this woman. I forget her name. She's so forgettable, but she's like the secondary love interest.
Does she even show up later in the movie?
Yeah, not after. Well,
at the very, very end, right?
I think so,
Yeah.
And there's interesting, so Braddock sees one of the guys that tortured him.
Yeah.
He's also on the tarmac. There's a previous flashback where they're like being led in chains on this like rice paddy, and then the Americans start bombarding them from very close with mortars. It's like extremely close. Like you would use small arms close rather than that.
It's extremely loud and incredibly close. Yes.
Yes, it is. But long story short is that's like the bad guy who was escorting them, who shoots like one of his friends for no reason. He's there too, and
it's implied that the Americans stopped firing because he executed one of the prisoners. Huh?
I don't know.
They
made this movie very quickly.
Yeah,
it shows.
Yeah. Golan-Globus. They made movies to get them out there.
Yes.
And not to serve as great works of art for generations.
Well, you know what? To a degree, not every movie's going to be There Will Be Blood. Not every actor's going to be Daniel Day-Lewis or Meryl Streep. I mean, there's a market for this. Well, obviously, we're talking about this. We've never done an episode on There Will Be Blood, but we're doing one on Missing in Action.
I was reading a book about cinema in the 1950s, and I think his name was Cohn, the guy who was in charge of Columbia. He said straight up, I want to make one good movie a year, and everything else is junk. I just want to make money with all the other movies.
Ronald Reagan, when he was in Hollywood in the 30s and early 40s, he was making a lot of B movies, and he said they didn't want them good, they wanted them Tuesday, which I thought was pretty funny. Here it is. So Braddock and the other they go to like some sort of, it's a big conference room. It looks like a hotel conference room or something they're in, and there's giant pictures of Lenin and
Ho Chi Minh
Ho Chi Minh outside the front.
Yeah.
Ho Chi Minh, that's right. I didn't see his yarmulke though. So I guess he is igniting some sparks every day of the week, which Not so kosher.
About that? A legendary story. We need to do another fan story episode at some point.
Absolutely.
One day we'll plan for that ahead of time.
So they get to this meeting, and instead of talking about the POWs, they trot out all these random farm workers who are like, Braddock has committed war crimes, and here's their signed affidavits that say he did. So it must be true. Women, he killed women and old men and children.
And Braddock forgives them,
Well, one guy says something like, I'm so sorry. And he says, I forgive you.
Yeah, they know not what they do.
And then, so, and also, is James Hong talking? It sounds awfully like Chinese that he's speaking when he's there. It may be Vietnamese, but...
or Vietnamese with an atrocious accent.
I know. But so, and then Tran says something. You wrote this down. You should talk, because this is...
So Tran... So this... The continuing story of these movies is so crazy, but Tran...
And it gets so much worse in the second and third. It gets so much more disjointed and insane.
Tran basically admits to the fact that Braddock was in captivity beyond the war, beyond the end of the war, and the reason was because Braddock is a common criminal. He wasn't a prisoner of war, he was a prisoner of committing crimes, or basically.
He was serving an extended prison sentence.
An extended prison sentence, he says. So that basically confirms the conspiracy theory that they were keeping POWs after the war. So, I mean,
they just classify them as criminals. They're not prisoners of war.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that lends a lot of credence to the idea that there may be more out there, more people like Braddock. So that was very eyebrow raising right there.
Because it's admitting that they're keeping, because that's admitting the central concept, which is you are keeping American servicemen after the war. Because that was part of the agreement, the Paris Accords, is you release all American pre-POWs.
Yeah. And then he says, there was a price on your head, $5,000. And Braddock says, I thought it was more like 20,000 or something silly
stupid
like that.
And he said, is it true you let 10 men die in prison because you refused to admit to war crimes?
We just watched the second movie. I don't think 10 men died in prison because of that. Maybe I'm wrong. A lot of people died.
They actually shot those two movies like back to back. Apparently they were going to release 2 first, and then they realized 1, Missing in Action was better than Missing in Action 2, the beginning, which is definitely true.
Yeah.
Missing in Action 1 is not amazing, but it is definitely better than the second one.
A much better film, yeah. So that scene is a bit odd. And then after this, they go to like a soiree. They go to like a dinner party.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Mission at Moscow dinner party, where all the...
Here's the Japanese delegation. So he talks to the reporter. Is she a reporter? The lady. She's
like an assistant or something. I don't know. They just wanted to let's get a young woman in here. She'll be the love interest, I guess.
Yeah.
All movies must have a love interest.
Yeah. And she says some facts that are going to be important for later. Okay.
But they don't make any sense in the wider scheme of these movies.
It's so crazy. I understand. Okay, I get if these movies take place in an alternate universe where the live POW theory is true. Okay, fine. That's fine.
Well, it does.
And I accept that. That's fine. That's okay. But at least keep it consistent between the 3 movies. Because, again, this shit will make no sense later. But she says that he was a POW for 8 months. Then he was missing in action for 7 years. And then he escaped last year. And it's not clear when now is. That's another problem. It could be the year the movie came out, which was
1984.
Okay. It could be that, or it could be earlier, right? Couldn't be later, right? Couldn't be.
I know. Well,
maybe it could be.
Because I think Missing in Action 3 happens in 1987 because it's 12 years after the fall of Saigon.
I think they do throw that number out there.
Or 10 years after the fall of Saigon.
Yeah, no, that's the second movie. The second movie is 10 years after.
What?
Well, no.
Time in these fucking movies does not make any sense. You know what? We shouldn't spend too much time on this because
we'll get to it later. We'll get to it later when these problems
it's never
arise.
Clarified. I'm pulling the reveal. Ta-da! They never clarify this. So was he a POW separately before? And also, by the way, they say he's 38 years old, a retired colonel from the U.S. Special Forces.
Retired. Okay.
Chuck Norris was in his mid 40s when they made these movies. Sure. So they're giving him a few extra there. They say the camera adds 10 pounds and adds 2 inches. Well, I guess it takes 7 or 8 years off your lifespan too.
2 inches, eh? Interesting. Okay.
That's right. Well, I don't know until we got to get Rob from Celeb Heights on. How tall is Chuck Norris? I don't know.
He's definitely 6'1 3/4, undoubtedly. I
don't
believe it in my heart that he's this high.
So, but the point is that a 38-year-old colonel at that time would be like unheard of. Like the last time they'd have anywhere being a colonel, a full bird colonel by the age of 30. And actually, he's apparently a colonel by the time he's like 30.
Yeah.
Based off the second movie.
Right.
Which is just outside the World War II is the last time that would have happened because as the army is becoming a professional all volunteer force completely, you don't make colonel until you're maybe in your 40s or 50s.
Well, it's a different world. Maybe the mortality is so high, people are getting brevet promotions left and right.
I don't know. Either way, he's not 38 in this movie. But he decides he's going to go around Saigon. He's going to go confront General Tran. So he
excuse me, Ho Chi Minh City. Get it right, buddy.
He calls it Saigon, which I think is very funny. Is intentional.
It's Sharpsburg. Damn it. It's not Antietam.
So describe what he does, Max.
He hatches a plot with the lady because apparently they've been working together this whole time. He's going to go to her room. Right. And they're going to establish this fiction that they're having sex. All right.
Because there's like guards outside.
Right. So he starts stripping down, once again, showing off his body. And
Chuck Norris, warrior monk. He doesn't have time for sex. He has to find the POWs.
He has to find them. Yes. He doesn't. Yeah. And it doesn't happen in any of these movies, by the way. But anyway, so
there's a lot of gratuitous nudity that we'll talk about later.
He strips out of his ridiculous clothing and into a black sweater and black pants. And then
ninja.
Like a ninja. He goes out the window and he does Assassin's Creed style parkour. It takes forever. We had to fast forward constantly.
We were watching this movie mainly at like 1.3 to 1.5.
Yeah,
there's so much fucking dead time in these movies.
You could probably string together about 45 minutes of just sneaking throughout every single one of these movies. This constant sneaking and distracting people and snapping people's necks.
The third movie, he snaps so many people's necks.
They really up the ante on the third movie in a lot of ways. But he sneaks out of the building. He gets down to the street and goes over to James Hong's house. Sneaks in that house.
He snaps a few necks on the way in.
Of course
he does kick a guy in the balls, too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he kicks a guy in the balls and then snaps his neck afterwards, if I remember correctly.
Adding insult to injury, I guess.
And he gets into James Hong's room, and James Hong is hilariously under pink sheets and puts a knife to his throat. And his gigantic Adam's apple is moving up and down, by the way.
He does have a giant Adam's apple.
Huge. And he says, "Where are the living POWs right now?" And James Hong, luckily there are some.
Where are the American MIAs?
Yes, the American MIAs. And don't tell me any of those Australian or New Zealand or South Korean MIAs, you son of a bitch. Just the American ones, damn it.
I was sent here from Washington, not Canberra.
So he's holding this knife to his throat, and James Hong says Delta region, which at first I was thinking, huh? But he's talking about the Mekong Delta.
The Mekong Delta,
okay,
yeah.
Yes.
Which is not that far from Ho Chi Minh City.
Ho Chi Minh City, yeah. Not really not that far. You were saying there was a lot of fighting there during the Vietnam War.
Yeah, the 9th Infantry Division based in the Mekong Delta. Very heavy fighting. That's like the River War, like the gunboats, from like Apocalypse Now and all that. That's the Mekong Delta. And there's some really interesting stuff to read about. The war there is very different from like the war that the Marines, the Americol Division was fighting in like northern Vietnam, like Hue, Con Thien, Khe Sanh. Then you have like the Highlands, and then you have fighting north of Saigon, like 25th Infantry Division. But the 9th Infantry Division was like this riverine force fighting in the Mekong Delta. Really brutal fighting there. So a couple of notable 9th Infantry Division veterans who fought in the Mekong Delta. Chuck Hagel, former Secretary of Defense.
Whoa, okay.
Wes Studi, the actor. Magua in... the one who gets the shit beat out of him at the end of The Last of the Mohicans.
Oh, okay.
He's also the bat. He helps him out. He builds the weapons in Mystery Men.
The grenade with the tornado.
Yeah, Dances with Wolves.
Okay, interesting.
He won an honorary Oscar a few years ago. He did a voice in one of the Avatar movies.
Oh no, which one? First one or second one?
First one, I think.
The second one's better.
Yes, but 9th Infantry Division, yeah.
Okay. We used to make fun of that second Avatar movie, and then we both saw it, and it wasn't that bad.
It's better than the first one.
It was much better.
I saw it, yeah. I actually I was like, this is, I mean, it's not my favorite movie. I'm like, but this is definitely better than the first one.
It's all about family now. It's like the Fast and the Furious. It's about my
God.
family.
Also the worst fucking ride at Universal Studios.
Which one, Avatar or Fast and the Furious?
No, Avatar's at Disney. I've never been on that one, but Fast and the Furious. Let me just go on a sidetrack.
Sure, please.
Fast and the Furious is a whole series built around fast cars. So you think they would build a roller coaster that fits in perfectly.
Yeah.
But no, you ride on like a fucking bus. It's terrible.
A bus?
It's awful.
What is
and they
going
do a
on?
lot of talking about like F is for family and Vin Diesel this and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, this is awful. This is terrible.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. What are you doing? Like in Harry Potter world, they've got like the broom stuff, don't they? With the roller coaster.
There's there's the one that's inside where you like fly around and like I got a little sick on that one when I went on it because it was like, oh god, like there's a lot of your arms. No, there's
because you're the biggest Harry Potter fan in the entire world, of course, and that's why you go to these places. You're the lore expert on Harry Potter, and I appreciate that about you.
That's.
You went there by your own volition, all by yourself.
Yes.
And that is a certified fact.
Oh,
right there.
yeah. No, that was... No, yes, I'm such an expert on Harry Potter.
You're always talking about him all the time.
No, I went there because...
Someone else.
Yes. Well,
We'll
I'll
say
say it. It's fine. My wife.
Oh, you've ruined the illusion.
Yes.
All your fans will be devastated.
I know.
All your female fans.
Yes, that's right. Sorry. I've been off the market for a while now. No, she's the expert. I went there happily because it made her happy.
Sure.
But let me tell you, I mean, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. My favorite Harry Potter fact still is the fact that they used the wands to vaporize the shit that they took. And man, I would have paid good fucking money to have seen that in a Harry Potter movie. I would have paid $30, $50 for a ticket to watch Daniel Radcliffe take a shit on screen and then vaporize it with
with the magic of AI, I'm sure we'll see that within the next 2 or 3 weeks with the acceleration of technology.
Although my God. I am not the Harry Potter expert, but the Hagrid's ride at the one in Florida was actually really good.
Interesting.
I will say that. That was fun.
Okay.
It was a fun roller coaster. But the Fast and Furious ride, terrible.
Terrible.
I'm going to write a letter to Vin Diesel. I'm going to write a letter to Ludacris.
Write a letter to Jason Statham.
Jason Statham. Were you in one of these movies? I can't remember, but it feels like you should have been.
I think
he was, wasn't he?
I saw it. I saw it in the theater. I saw many of these movies in theaters. He's definitely in them. Yeah. He was one of the bad guys and he became a good guy. It's like Pokemon. You catch him and he joins your team. Yes.
Is it? I'm
Yeah.
deaf. Oh my God.
Yeah. You're also the Pokemon expert as well. But James Hong, he says it's in the Delta region, Dong Ha district or something like that.
Dong Ha, 8 kilometers from the coast.
So that's all the information he needs, apparently, because he leaves James Hong in bed and he's going to walk out and James Hong pulls out a gun and
Shoots at him, but misses.
Yeah, shoots like a pot and Chuck Norris throws a knife at him, kills him instantly. Tragic. The best character in all these movies is now dead.
But also, the knife hits him in like the stomach. Knives to a stomach like that wouldn't usually kill you instantly, but it's like, I guess it has special poison on it because he dies instantly.
It's like Hamlet, it's got poison on it. It should be like Family Guy, where it's like an extended, like, ooh, ow, ouch, ooh. People in movies die way too quickly because when the good guy kills someone, it needs to be instant or else he seems very cruel.
Yeah, exactly.
You start thinking about how savage the constant body count of these movies is, like all the families that are being torn apart.
Well, you think about, a character kills like 100 people in a movie, and it's like there was that Punisher TV show a while back that was on is on Disney Plus now. But there's like in the beginning of the second season, there's like a fight where he kills a bunch of people in a bar, and it's an interesting, good scene. Like a bunch of people get killed. It's got to be like 10 or 12, and like the police later roll up, and someone's like, "Well, what are we gonna say?" He's like, "Just tell him it was like a bar fight," and it's like, okay, and it's like this would be the lead news on CNN. 12 people killed in a gang fight. in a bar. Like, that is very newsworthy.
Yeah.
Like, people underestimate in movies. Like, that's one of the things. I guess it has to be that way, but like, this would be a huge deal. I mean, and you don't even think about that. Like, you read about like people who win medals in wars. Like, there was one, a World War II one, about during the Battle of the Bulge, a machine gunner in the 2nd Infantry Division who like held an exposed position and bought his company time. I think it's Jose Lopez was his name.
Okay.
And he held a position like with a Browning water-cooled machine gun, and like it was the beginning of the Battle of the Bulge, you're getting attacked. He held his position and it bought his company time to fall back and build another position. And it said in like 10 minutes of combat or 15, something like that, he killed over 100 German soldiers in one action.
My God.
You think about that. I mean, that's like hard to even, you know, like you watch these movies and you think, you know, you have just characters who's just shooting people left and right. I mean, like, this guy killed 200 people. I mean, my God, like that's, you know.
And Eugene Sledge, he was a mortarman. And in his book, With the Old Breed, he talks about how they found a Japanese trench that was filled with something like 30, 40, 50 Japanese soldiers that they killed in a single barrage that they did earlier that day as they were moving forward. Well, and it made him realize how many people he must be killing on a regular basis. And he almost never actually sees what he did. This is one of the rare instances.
Well, think about a bombardier on a bomber.
There you go.
Well, think about the guy who, Thomas Farabee, the bombardier on the Enola Gay, died in like the year 2000. He was like a realtor in Florida. That guy released a bomb that killed probably over 100,000 people, and he was a bombardier on previous missions. I mean, like,
yeah.
But movies don't really get into that because, you know, I mean, especially a movie like this.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, yeah,
the whole point of these movies are to be just body counts out of just one-man armies mowing down people, just killing people left and right. So,
yeah.
So he kills James Hong. He escapes. And he gets back and he pretends like he and the lady have just had sex
for like the last 30 minutes or
and
so.
And they've kicked in the door and they're like, well, you have to leave tonight or else you'll never leave or something like that, which is an awful big threat to someone who's part of a diplomatic delegation. But
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, Braddock is pretty rude to them, but they're very rude back, threatening to kill people constantly. So Braddock's got to leave.
So he goes to Bangkok.
Yeah. Why? Because his buddy is there. And who is his buddy? The actor?
Emmett Walsh, who just died not that long before this episode was recorded.
And I mean, I'm surprised because he looked like his health might not have been incredible at the time, but he lived obviously for quite some time afterwards.
Yes. His friend's Tucker or Tuck.
Tuck, yeah.
And he has to go find him in a brothel.
His name is Tuck, and he came here to party as well. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Well, he does have Tuck does seem to have an affinity for prostitutes, and there's a bunch of, we won't show it on here, but
it's impossible to show.
There's a bunch of gratuitous nudity, female nudity in this.
Yeah.
Like for no reason, like naked women, like topless women walking around bars for no reason.
It's very artistic. It's very tasteful and artistic. It makes sense. It's important for the story. I mean, that's the reason why it's in the movie, clearly.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell we're going to do editing wise, but Tuck is his secret. Funny. Yeah. Good old Tuck. So he's going to
just do image not found.
That's pretty good. Or scene left missing or something like that.
This image is missing in action. Yes. But we get no full frontal male nudity, so that's the important.
Well, there was once again, scene not found, but there was a scene where paint a picture with your mind here. Big Emmett Walsh is laying with two naked women draped around him, and he's like, "Okay, let's go." And he's naked, and he starts to begin to stand up, and the camera cuts away. And if the camera didn't cut away, what a memorable scene that would be. It would really change the tenor. So your boy Emmett, or Tuck, let's just call him Tuck.
You may remember Emmett Walsh. He's in like a background or character in a lot of movies. He was the guy in Wild Wild West who hears Kevin Kline tell Will Smith to feel up his fake breast filled with buckwheat.
Yeah. That's a legendary scene. Yes. Thank you. I'm
and the Academy Award goes to.
But good old Tuck. He needs Tuck's help because he's the only guy he knows who owns a boat. So they're gonna take this boat to the Mekong Delta
from Bangkok.
So, and the Mekong does not run into Thailand, I don't think. Does it?
It runs on the border, but it exits. It empties out the delta as well in Vietnam. It's not.
So either they're going to
The
take
border of Laos and Thailand has the Mekong on it.
So either they're going to take the river for a ridiculously long route through hostile territory.
No, they go in the ocean. It's clear they're in the ocean.
Okay, it's the ocean. All right, it's definitely the ocean. So they take this tiny little boat, the crappiest boat you can possibly ever imagine. I mean, it looks like garbage.
Them and his friend Mike, this Thai guy who works on the boat called Mike.
He looks like a Mike.
Well, by the way, too, is they have to go get like a special infiltrating boat to take with them.
That's right. They go to an arms dealer.
And he's like, oh, this thing's really tough. Here, shoot this. And he has like his guy shoot it. It's Kevlar is what he says.
It'd be so funny if those turned out to be blanks and they just deflated the moment they started getting shot at. That bastard, he'll pay for this.
And then Chuck Norris, Terminator 1 style, gets on the boat and it has like an M60 on it and he loads it. And the guy's like, I want 20,000 for it. He's like, you'll take 5. And the guy goes, are you crazy? And then Chuck Norris just points a fully loaded machine gun at him.
And then the moment, like, afterwards, he should have just been, assassinated by these arms dealer guys. Like, you're not the first person to think of this trick, you jerk.
Yes. Oh, and also, by the way, there's Vietnamese assassins trying to kill.
That's right. Yeah, he gets off the plane and he sees some guys with People's Republic of Vietnam passports.
Diplomatic passports,
which means assassins, as everyone knows. Diplomats are all assassins. So some guys try to kill him. One guy jumps out of a closet, which actually spooked me. That actually scared me, not going to lie.
Yeah.
With a tiny knife. And then,
he defeats that guy.
Plan A, kill him with tiny knife. Plan B, have guy in other building with M79 grenade launcher. Blow up the entire building.
Yes.
And apparently he only brought one grenade, so he fires this grenade, blows up the building, and they just leave afterwards.
Yeah, but it does show that like people in the street got like injured by the explosion, which is actually pretty realistic for a movie that's unrealistic.
That's true. Yeah, that would be.
Well, they get on the boat. There's more assassins chasing them, and that guy who the
guy with the beard, the guy who was torturing him earlier,
he follows too. He gets on the boat and tries to kill Chuck Norris with an axe.
With an axe. He has a gun too. He could have shot him, but he decided I'll just use this axe instead.
He likes it personal. This is personal, so he's got to handle it personally.
So Chuck Norris breaks the axe handle with his bare hands. Easy to do. I invite all of you to go out and find an axe handle and just break that with your bare hands. It's pretty easy. It's not a big deal. And anyway, so bearded Vietnamese guy then takes the blade of the axe and tries to hurt him, to like slice him open with it. Shockingly, this doesn't work. Chuck Norris flips it around, puts it near his abdomen, and then punches the axe handle into him, killing him instantly. Of course. Entirely realistic, right?
And then he never says anything to Mike or Tucker about it. And I guess he just threw the body off.
They must have. Yeah, dumped him over the edge. Whatever. International waters. All things are legal here.
So they get to Vietnam and
they're going down the Mekong River. We see a bunch of water hyacinths. I hate them. I absolutely hate those things. They're terrible. They talked earlier about how the motor has mufflers on it that'll make you completely silent.
Because that's how physics works.
Huh? And lo and behold, the Foley guys didn't add any engine sounds in this scene, so he's completely silent as they tool down the river.
They're like 10 feet behind a Vietnamese boat at one point, and no one notices.
Like, if you've ever been on the water before, sound travels. You could.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, clear your throat. Even breathing, you could hear somebody else. Like, it's nothing to it. But of course, they're completely stealthy. They don't see him. For some reason, he disembarks, kills a bunch of sneaks around. Of course, the obligatory sneaking.
Yes. More sneak. God, there's so much sneaking.
So much damn sneaking in these movies. There's a booby trap. Why are there booby traps? The war's over.
Yeah. Why are there booby traps left in?
Why would there still be punchy traps all over the place?
Yeah, to kill all your people? Like, this is Vietnam. Like,
we're stopping overpopulation. We have to just passively murder our own people constantly.
And then you also point out the thing about what Emmett Walsh says.
Oh yeah, and then at one point, so Chuck Norris is having like a hand-to-hand fight with a bunch of Vietnamese guys, and then Tuck, Emmett Walsh, pulls out his M16 and shoots one of them, and he says, "Oh, sorry." And I'm like, "Sorry, Canadian detected. Oh, you're Canadian. I know you're Canadian." I used to watch the old Gundam cartoons dubbed into anime, the old Gundam animes from the 80s dubbed into English, and they were all done by Canadian people. So they're all like, "Oh, sorry, fa." Sorry, Quattro. So that was like the first revelation for me that was a Canadian thing. And I looked this guy up because I was like, is this guy from Canada? He's not. He's from Ogdenburg, New York, right on the border with Canada. So even though he's American, he's still got that.
Sounds like a dirty Canadian.
His loyalties are not clear. It's 50-50.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, once the inevitable clash between Canada and the United States, then, well, he's dead. I guess we won't know his loyalties,
that's
but
true.
We'll know the loyalties of everyone else from Ogdensburg.
We need to send, they all need to take loyalty oaths just to make sure. Yeah.
That's right. So he gets to a camp.
Yeah.
And he blows up. And by the way, grenades in this movie are like mini nuclear bombs.
Yes.
They create, because in real life, grenades don't really create a lot of fire. They kill people with shrapnel. But here, they're napalm packed with a little mini nuke.
Filled with rags soaked in oil.
Just huge flames. And he attacks at night, this camp, and blows up stuff with an M7.
You're forgetting all the sneaking that happened beforehand.
Yes.
Lots of sneaking.
Oh, my God. He also puts an explosive, and it looks like one of those kitchen timers that you could buy, those cheap ones you can buy from like the dollar store. Like you put a AA battery in and you type in like, 10 minutes or whatever. Like it sticks looks like a hunk of plastic with one of those things welded onto it. And
the result is a gigantic fiery explosion. The fire is Dragon Seed-esque. It's crazy looking. I would not want to be one of these extras pretending to be shot by bullets right next to that.
No, and he mows down all these Pavin people, and then he opens these cages. But who's in there? Arvins.
Yeah. They even say, I'm former Black Panther Division
Ranger.
Or Black Panther Ranger. Yeah. And they're like, we will continue the fight, but they seem really not really sure about it. They seem pretty
but guess what?
crestfallen.
They're never seen again. So who knows? Maybe they are continuing the fight, or maybe they just ran away and we're happy to be.
And I think this is based on reality because I think a lot of South Vietnamese were sent into re-education camps after the war was over. So I guess this is kind of touching on something real, sort of.
So at this point, he finds out that the prisoners have been moved.
Oh,
the Americans. So he follows them on the river. And there's a big chase, and then he ambushes them with it. And there's an iconic scene with an M60.
Yes. Luckily, there's a waterway right next to this road, so he's able to get on his boat and follow these trucks where the prisoners are. And it's really funny because they're like, clearly stagehands are moving the trucks left and right while they're filming.
Well, when they're showing the POWs in the back of the truck, like they move only to the left and right. So clearly they have like the grips, like are shaking each side of the
The best boy was really earning his sandwich that day.
Yeah, you can get whatever you want from craft services today.
And yes, there's an iconic scene, absolutely iconic scene where they shoot a bazooka at the boat, and then Chuck Norris emerges out of the water. These guys are laughing, they're giggling until Chuck Norris comes out with his M60 and in slow motion blasts them all away.
That's right. In fact, it's on the cover of the third movie, which is interesting because that scene never happens in the third movie.
Nothing like that scene happens in the third movie. But it's so iconic. They want to fool people into buying the third movie just to get something like that.
And he frees the POWs. And by the way, the POWs, there's like two guards in the back. They push them to the ground, and one of them grabs like an AK-47, and he just shoots the hell out of them. Like, you don't see the impact. You just see him like crazy eyes just like spraying them with bullets for like about 10 seconds, which is way more ammo than an AK-47's got. In a 30-round mag.
Yeah, and there'll be more ridiculous shooting later in this series. But yeah, so he frees these POWs. They're like, are we going home? Yes, we're going home. We're fine. You didn't forget about us, so thank you. And they all pile into this tiny boat, this tiny boat with oars.
Well, no, it's a Jeep. They gets in a Jeep first, and then he booby traps the Jeep,
so right.
and then they get into a tiny boat with oars, and they paddle themselves out.
Yeah, and Mike is holding it down.
Yeah, well, what happens is the patrol boats, Vietnamese patrol boats come. So Mike, the hero, is back. He grabs the M60 and he shoots it in a very interesting way. He like holds the front grip with his left hand, rather than usually when you see it in like a Vietnam movie, they have it like you're holding it with your right hand, the pistol grip, and you've got the left arm like over like the butt of it.
Yeah.
Whereas here they're like holding it like a gun, like where it could hold a rifle.
I think it's because the box magazine is attached to the post, which is very interesting. It's kind of weird. It means you can't swivel around.
I don't know. Well, he shoots that is the longest fucking burst. He shoots so long. That gun should be non-functional.
It's about 2 or 3 minutes straight of just
that doesn't seem to do a lot before he gets shot. And in the crowd, you could just hear the audible. You could just imagine being in the theater and people go, Mike!
Mike in action coming this summer. Mike in action, the beginning.
I know. I cried out for Mike when he got shot. I couldn't believe it. They killed fucking Mike. I can't believe it.
But, Mike's sacrifice was not in vain, though, because the American POWs that he cares deeply about get on the big boat.
Well, no, they don't get, because remember, they're going to get on the big boat. Then Emmett Walsh jumps off. He swims to the boat. He's manning the machine gun now. And then the helicopter comes because there's a journalist that Braddock talked to. And the journalist brings a helicopter and they rescue the POWs. The boat gets blown up, so that kills Tucker. Yeah. And then as they're flying away, the helicopter which I guess this journalist hired a helicopter that had rocket pods on it because it fires a rocket that blows up one of the patrol boats.
I think they make some mention of bribing someone, which someone's going to Leavenworth for this one, I'll tell you that much. I don't care if Braddock gets a Medal of Honor for this. That guy is going to prison.
So,
and then they say, where to next?
And he goes, Saigon.
Oh, shit.
And Max, do you want me?
Oh,
or I kind of want you.
Okay.
Because this scene is amazing.
This scene is the reason we did an episode about it, because the implications are crazy. But he obliges, the pilot obliges, they spin around, they start going towards Saigon. And if you call that Ho Chi Minh City, I will slap you right across the face right now, buddy, because that is Saigon. They're on their way there. They go into the city. They're landing right in front of the building where the conference is happening. Mm-hmm. Papers are thrown up in the air. All their computer paper.
The assorted papers of the Vietnamese people have been thrown in the air.
And then they get out. They're pushing through the crowd. And during this whole thing, there's a People's Republic of Vietnam guy who's saying, and now we shall definitively state that there are absolutely no living POWs in Vietnam. And they're pushing through. And right when he says in Vietnam, they go through the door, and it's this big moment. And here they are. The reporters are snapping pictures.
Chuck Norris has got one of the POWs like slung over his shoulder, and he brings him in, and then it just like freeze frames. And people are clapping and taking pictures. And
it's this triumphant moment, this feel-good ending. Yes, everyone is vindicated. There are living POWs, and here they are. But what happens next, Matt?
And that... I remember when we watched this for the first time, I showed you that scene specifically, and we talked. The implications of this are crazy.
Yes.
Because what happens next? And here's the thing: is that okay? So we're in a world where there really are POWs, and they've been rescued, and they come back in this super public way.
Yeah, in front of cameras, in front of pictures. And this is after the Vietnamese were saying there weren't any for years.
Yes, there are no POWs, and here they are.
And the peace was predicated upon give us back the POWs.
So what happens next? And honestly, I think the realistic next step is America engages in some sort of military action. If it's 1984 or 1985, here's the alternate history portion of this, of the episode. Finally, I don't know what point we are, but we've been recording for a while now, is that in reality, the next step, this is the Reagan administration, 1984 or 1985, there will be military action taken against Vietnam. Are we going to launch carrier raids? Are we going to launch B-52 raids from Guam and Clark Field? Are there going to be special forces raids into Vietnam? Are we going to re-invade Vietnam? I mean, that's what happens if there actually were POWs. And that's why some of the POW advocates said, oh, the U.S. government's covering this up because they knew we'd have to restart the war.
Yeah.
And actually in Rambo 2, the bad guy who's like, they make him out so slimy and terrible, and he is, but he actually, Murdoch, I'm coming for you. And then he starts fighting the Soviets. But the thing is that the guy says, and he's actually, it's like where occasionally sometimes the villain is actually right in a movie, kind of. And he's like, what do you want us to do? He's like, what happens if you want POWs on the 6 o'clock news? You want to start bombing Hanoi again? You want to reignite the war? And he's actually right, because that's what would happen. People would be calling for blood. Imagine if this happens.
Yeah.
We recovered 5 POWs, and guess what everyone's going to say? We know there's more. They're right.
There has to be.
All those people are still alive, or most of them are still alive in Vietnam, and they've been tortured and kept prisoner, I guess, to work in the field in Vietnam. Is that what their highest use is, to farm crops?
Again, the question of why. We'll raise it, and we'll get into why even more in the second movie, because we'll see what it was like in captivity for Braddock all these years.
Yeah. But the thing is, so that's the next scene and it's funny enough, I did a flash fiction story.
You did, yeah.
Before we recorded this about that scene, and like it's Braddock like sitting in a bar in like LA or something like that, and watching the news, and they're talking about how like after the POWs came back, air raids have been launched against Vietnam. U.S. troops just landed south of Ho Chi Minh City and are driving on it. Like the Vietnam War has restarted. People are calling for vengeance against Vietnam for like abusing and torturing these prisoners and lying. And he's just like, oh my God, I restarted the Vietnam War.
Imagine if we were able to convince Britain and Canada to join too, because this is just so out of line. UN gets involved.
Yeah, I know. It just is like, but that's the honest to goodness truth. People would be baying for blood.
Yeah.
It would be, we've got to teach them, maybe not a full on invasion, but like, I don't think any administration they'd have to launch like airstrikes at least, or something like that. I mean,
and allow.
Or what are they going to do? Go to China? We're going to land have troops come over the Chinese border? Are we going to go into Cambodia or Laos and invade or launch? I mean, just like, what are we going to, I mean.
Well, you bring up an interesting point there with China, because China was very unfriendly with Vietnam.
They fought a war.
They fought a war. The Sino-Vietmanese War.
Which the Vietnamese won, actually.
They did, yeah. Because that was over, I think, Cambodia, because they intervened in Cambodia, overthrew the Khmer Rouge. Was that 75 when that happened?
Late 75, the Khmer Rouge is somewhere around there, 74, 75.
Well, somewhere around then.
Which is really horrible, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, the Khmer Rouge, what they did in Cambodia is...
It's unspeakable.
It's like the proportionally worst genocide that we know of. Horrible. I mean, the killing
horrible.
fields, all that stuff. I mean, Vietnam intervened. Another communist country invaded them. It was so bad.
Yeah. And I think they occupied them till the 90s.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the UN administered Cambodia for a few years, and then it became the Kingdom of Cambodia.
Is it a kingdom again?
I believe it's a kingdom now.
It was a kingdom before. But
Yeah.
Is it a kingdom again?
Yeah, and I don't know what type of government it actually is. I assume it's a democracy.
I think it's kind of an authoritarian, like soft authoritarian regime now.
Okay, kind of like how Burma used to be
Hun
before.
Sen. Hun Sen is the head of Cambodia.
Gotcha.
I know someone who's been there, and they loved it. They said it was amazing.
They loved it. Really?
Yeah, they went to Angkor Wat, and
okay. I mean, I bet that's really cool. Don't get me wrong.
They said the food was really good and cheap.
Okay,
which I get.
I get that too. Yeah, but I don't know. I'd be a little worried about my safety.
So the implication of the end of this movie is crazy. Like also in Rambo 2, what happens? He recovers like 7 POWs. Like they're going to come home. What do you think is going to happen? Like there is going to be something.
You can't cover that up.
Yeah.
It's going to be front page news. Everyone's going to be talking about it. It's going to be on Larry King. Everyone will know. There's no way to cover that up. So yeah, it really does make you wonder. I mean, in this universe, if there's another Vietnam War or some kind of intervention, I mean, what does that affect American politics too?
Well, we're back in Vietnam. People had thought we'd put Vietnam behind us, and now it's 1985, and now we're back in Vietnam again. The nightmare is back.
And either it's a cakewalk and we feel good about ourselves, or it's another quagmire.
You feel like it would probably be like air raids or something, or some demand. You turn over all POWs in the next 48 hours, or we're gonna bomb. We're gonna
let armed inspectors, go wherever they want for the next 20 years.
Yes, Braddock. Yeah.
Braddock will be in charge of this. Yeah.
Braddock is coming back.
Braddock and Bo Greitz and all these other guys are going to become celebrities because of this.
Well, and the truth of the matter is that the honest to goodness truth is if the Vietnamese government, for they had no incentive to keep American POWs. Once there's a peace, once the U.S. is pulled out, it's only 2 more years and then South Vietnam falls.
Yes.
To be perfectly frank, if they really kept POWs after the war, first, why? But if they did, I'm going to be honest, they just would have killed them.
Yeah.
They would have...
That's the big question, is why keep them alive? There's no reason.
To farm crops?
To serve as manual labor? Yeah, like, no, it doesn't make any sense.
No,
part of the conspiracy theories was like, oh, they were sent to the Soviet Union. There's some kind of information they can get out of them or something. And
out
then
of an infantryman they captured? I mean, I hate to say it, but like, I mean...
Yeah, what do they know about? Well, a lot of these guys are pilots, though, so they know about the B-52, which is, of course, over 20 years old at that point.
Yeah. It just, I mean, to be honest, the Vietnamese, if they kept POWs, they're like, oh, crap, they would have killed them and they would have destroyed... I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying that any rational government or organization in that position would have killed them and gotten rid of the evidence. And it would have been very easy. And then they would have said, nope, we turned over all the POWs. Why the hell would they keep POWs around into the 80s? What were they going to do? Keep them until it's going to be 2011 and there's still going to be Vietnam POWs in
nursing homes?
In nursing homes in Vietnam? Like, what? I mean, what the... no.
To give a little bit of credit to the movement, all right? Mm-hmm. I don't think there were any living POWs in Vietnam by Operation Homecoming. If there were, they were probably killed right shortly afterwards, or like they were killed beforehand because they didn't want to give them back. I doubt that, but there's no evidence of that. But that's a conspiracy theory I could accept as being realistic and real. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this too: Dieter Dingler, the German-American airman who was in a POW camp in, I believe, Laos. It was definitely Laos.
Pathet Lao?
The Pathet Lao took him prisoner, yeah. The movie Rescue Dawn, great movie. Mm-hmm. I really like that movie. It dramatizes this, but he was in a camp and they ended up escaping. And the thing that predicated that was the fact that one of them overheard one of the guards talking about how we're going to march him out into the jungle and kill him and tell everyone they tried to escape. And I think it's possible that could have happened to some of the POWs. And I think it's worth something to investigate that, to try to figure out how they died, where they died, all this stuff. That's something about the POW movement that I think gets glossed over, is that it's valuable to know how people died.
Yeah.
It's almost like the only thing that matters is them being alive still. And I hate to break it to you, but it's not likely. But it is valuable to find out what happened to the people who died.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I mean, you go to, like, even for World War II, they still use DNA to identify. Yeah. So if you go into any of the, as I said, you could see it both in Normandy at Colville and at the Luxembourg Cemetery. They have a list of the killed in action, body not recovered people.
Yeah.
But next to some of the names, they have these little rosettes. Mm-hmm. And those are for people who are later identified. They still will occasionally identify people via DNA. I mean, so I agree with you. But and again, that is believable that perhaps in some isolated camp you had some people and maybe they just killed them because they didn't want to. I don't. Yeah, that's not. But the idea that what I'm talking about was ridiculous is the idea that in 1985 the Vietnamese government would, and we can talk about this more in the second one when we're talking about the prison camps, but like it also makes sense because the Vietnamese mistreated the POWs, and we'll get into that more. So that also feeds into the believability of they're doing this to stick it to us or whatever. But like when you think about it from the most rational point of view, no government, why would they have kept anybody after homecoming? And if they did, they would have killed them and destroyed the bodies. They would have tossed them in the jungle or destroyed them somehow. It would have been very easy, and then no one would have ever known.
Yeah.
And people have looked into this. I mean, serious scholars have looked at this. This is not just like Congress looked into it, and there was no
concrete evidence.
There's never been there's been never concrete evidence found to show that they're living POWs kept after Operation Homecoming.
Yeah. There was that one POW who was there possibly on his own terms. I don't know. Anything's possible.
Yeah, but that's different. Yeah. We're talking about people held against their will.
Yeah,
not
in
released,
camps. Yeah.
In camps. Yeah. To farm vegetables or something.
Or something. So I think that's as good of a segue as any to talk about Missing in Action 2, the beginning.
Oh, God.
Because as we mentioned before, this was originally supposed to be Missing in Action 1. It was supposed to be chronological. We see the prison camp, then we see him go back to get more people.
And after watching this movie, the first one is better, remarkably.
Yes.
And I can see why they made that call.
And right off the bat, the inconsistencies are starting to mount up here, because we see Braddock. It's 1972, they say, at the beginning of this movie, and they're getting in a helicopter to go on a LRP or a patrol or something. I don't know why.
To rescue some soldiers.
Rescue people, yeah.
But here's the thing. In 1972, there are almost no major infantry units left. There may be a few small ones, some special forces. There's no... 71, I think, is when the last division left Vietnam. But, like, there's not... The U.S. was getting out of Vietnam as fast as they could in 72. And really, at that point, the only major action in that year I can think of is air action.
Yeah.
It's when the only two American pilots who became fighter aces, who were pilots, not weapons operators in the back, was in 1972. Operation Linebacker. Randy Cunningham, who later became a congressman and then went to prison for taking bribes. He spent like 8 or 9 years in prison. I remember this was when I first started getting interested in ace stuff, and I was reading about Duke Cunningham, and then it's like in the news not that long afterwards, like he was like, it was a sting operation and they caught him. Yeah.
What was he taking bribes to do?
Like contractors to like push money to like stuff like that, military contractors. And then Steve Ritchie, who's like the last American ace. Although I sent something to you a while back. There is a Marine pilot who shot down like 7 or 8 Houthi drones, and they're like, is this guy an ace?
I would argue yes.
We should consult our experts, Alan Greenspan, Gene Shalit, Jimmy Carter, decorated World War II aces.
Henry Kissinger.
Well, we can't anymore.
Well, that's true of many of the people you just said.
I know. Well, no, those all three are still alive
Greenspan?
right now as
Okay.
we speak.
Well,
we'll see. But back to this. Yes, it's Vietnam, 1972.
yeah.
30-year-old Colonel Braddock.
Yes, now he's in the 101st Airborne Division, which he wasn't before.
He wasn't, no.
Yeah.
And Chuck Norris's brother was actually in the 101st Airborne in Vietnam, was actually killed in action.
Yeah.
Battle of Firebase Ripcord. So I wonder if that's like a kind of thing he wanted to do.
Probably a tribute to his brother, I would think. Firebase Ripcord, as depicted in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. A fine work of alternate history.
Never played it.
Yeah. I don't know. The last one for you was Black Ops or Black Ops 2?
I think it was Call of Duty 3.
Okay.
Modern Warfare 3.
Gotcha.
And then I remember seeing parts from the other ones, the one where it has like solar weaponry or something, and then it got like all future shit, and I'm like, I don't even want to.
Yeah. I never. I'm not interested in modern day or future. All I care about is the past. I want to.
That's right.
They're going to make a Gulf War one. Believe it or not.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
another Black Ops one. So
Call of Duty Spanish-American War. Craig Jorgensen. Get the Gatling gun scene.
Deadliest Warrior
You
style.
have like Teddy Roosevelt, come on, like picking up the ground, come on, ah. You have your sword.
Follow Roosevelt, and it's like, what a great formula. I think it's lost the plot a little bit, but those were great back.
They're
in
running
the
out
day.
of wars. That's the problem. They could do Korea though.
Yeah. Hey, period pieces. Well, the problem is that when they went back to World War II, it was atrocious. It was so dumb. It was the dumbest thing ever. I bought it just because I was.
Oh, that's
curious.
the one you showed me at El Alamein.
Yeah, and they have what STG 44s at Al Alamein?
No.
What's going on, people?
No.
What is happening?
No.
The whole reason I did it is because beforehand there was some article where they said, "Oh, this will be an alternate history game," and I'm like, "Great, awesome, that's great. Oh, that'll be wonderful." And then they walked back and said, maybe it isn't an alternate history
It's
thing.
secret history.
It's secret history is what it is. There's like, oh my God, it's too stupid to even talk about. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's so stupid. The whole thing is dumb. Vanguard, awful, terrible.
Max, write them a letter.
I'm going to write them a letter, and I'm going to tell them they need to consult me the next time they try doing this shit, because it'll be much better than this garbage. I'll tell you that much. Ugh.
So let's get back. We're getting off. Let's get.
Vanguard is just awful. But yeah, missing in action too. So it's 1972 Vietnam. They're gonna save some people. They get in a helicopter. They land. This is a casevac. Okay, so they're picking up wounded people. Start the action at the beginning of the movie. They're walking around shooting people.
The helicopter gets shot down though.
Helicopter gets shot down, and then we see everyone's name, and then you get stamped missing in action on top of it.
They jump out of the helicopter into a river.
It's so funny too, because Braddock is the last guy, because he's a helicopter pilot apparently. He jumps out, and you can clear as day see someone still at the controls.
Yep.
That's the true missing in action guy right there. Whatever happened to him? Or maybe Chuck Norris was just sitting in some guy's lap while he was. Come on, jump out. Also, Chuck Norris has a mustache in this scene, and then he doesn't have a mustache later, which, so very abrupt. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm scatterbrained right now. So Chuck Norris.
The movie was just so good.
I'm just so excited to talk about this great movie. So Chuck Norris jumps out of this helicopter, and the Phantom guy, I guess, dies in a giant explosion. And it cuts abruptly to Arlington National Cemetery, where there's a funeral happening for the unknown soldier of Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And we see, they're having the gun salute with the artillery pieces. Mm-hmm. We see people in the audience. There's a newscaster who's presenting this, and he's talking about how it's almost the 10th anniversary of when we left Vietnam. And Reagan,
73, 80, yeah.
It must be 83. It has to be, right?
I guess.
82, 83.
Because we left Vietnam in 73, so yeah.
Yeah. And then Reagan talks about how we will do everything we can to account for everyone who is missing in action, hence the title, hence the name. And then it cuts back to prison camp. All right. Chuck Norris, big beard. It's been years. Apparently, it's been years since the opening scene.
Yeah, I guess.
And by the way, I'll point out that this is completely different from when he jumped off that hayloft with the 2 grenades and blew himself up. So, not clear what that was all about.
Maybe that was just a nightmare.
That was just a bad dream. And wait a second. Was the when he was watching the Spider-Man cartoon and he thought about how when he was in chains, was that just a dream too? Was he just imagining that? Or did that really happen? It had to have happened because he sees the guy later, the bearded guy.
Well, I think the part where he committed suicide by blowing himself up with grenades didn't happen, because then the rest of the movie wouldn't have happened. But I don't know. It's unclear. It's just so unclear.
I have a
and
theory.
The problem is they made these movies together. So they should get this right.
You would think they would keep it consistent between the two of them. But wait, Matt, I have a theory, okay? This guy, Chuck Norris, is traveling between dimensions. It's quantum leap.
Sliders.
Yes, same planet, different dimension.
He found the gateway.
He found the gateway. So he died when he blew himself up with the 2 grenades, and then he woke up watching cartoons. He saw the story about himself on television, and then he concocted, okay, I guess I gotta blend in this new dimension here. And he went from there. And Missing in Action 2 is a completely different universe, totally different. It's just it's an alternate history of Missing in Action 1.
Yeah, maybe. I don't.
It's the only way to explain what the hell is going on here.
I think we're looking for continuity where none is to be had.
But the thing about Missing in Action 2, so very different movie from the first one. First one, action movie. Constant action.
This is Commando, Rambo 2,
yeah.
Murder people, kill them left and right.
I'm going to try to blow you up with an M79 for no reason and then give up right afterwards and just walk away. Not a ton of logic, just turn your brain off, whatever. This is a prison camp movie. This is like the worst version of Bridge Over the River Kwai ever.
Yeah, it's pretty... There is so much torture. I mean,
constant torture.
The last movie was a lot of sneaking. This is so much torture.
Hey, but don't get me wrong. There's some sneaking in this one, too. Don't get me wrong. We were fast forwarding like crazy through parts of that movie. Oh, no. I don't know if Chuck Norris is going to get caught and killed. Oh, I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't wait. Is he going to snap this guy's neck? Or is he going to kick him in the balls and then snap his neck? I can't wait to find out. But this is a prison camp movie.
It's like Bridge Over the River Kwai, but made by like Roger Corman.
Yeah.
He was also in Ace Story too.
Oh,
That's a really
God,
that was a good one.
That's one of my favorites, Roger Corman. But
my God, yeah, I mean, it just is. It's a lot. This movie is like interminable. Like we really were watching it at like one point. We were watching it at like 2.2 speed at one point because there's so much sneaking and so much torturing. That's just
when stuff actually started happening, we had to slow it down because whoa, this part's actually good now. Hold on, this part's actually interesting. I should say.
Yes. They're in the camp. There's like 7 or so American POWs and then some ARVN POWs.
Not 10 of them. We're not going to see 10 POWs.
Well, they
get
said there
killed.
were 33, and now they're down to.
Oh, yeah, you're
And then,
right.
so the camp is run by Colonel Yin.
Yin.
A very traditional Vietnamese name, as far as I know.
And he's played by a man whom I assume is Korean.
Yeah, Soon Tae-ok or something.
Soon Tae
Or
Oh.
Soon, yeah, something like that.
His name will be on screen, obviously.
But so he's basically likes to torture them, and
He loves to torture them.
he does.
That's
And
apparently the only reason they're still prisoners of war.
he seems to indicate that he's actually disconnected from his command, and he's just kept these people against the will of the Vietnamese government. This movie is much worse than the first one, which is saying a lot. And the third one's even worse than this one, which is saying even more.
But yeah, this movie, so there's constant scenes. There's like a scene where they put a rat in a bag and put it on Braddock's face, which is like 1984 style. God, there's so many. There's so many instances of torture. Hanging him from a rope.
Hanging from the tree.
Yeah. There's a man has a beloved chicken whom he loves very much, and he kills the chicken, and he choked his chicken, and it was so sad.
Yeah, you know.
when that happened.
Choked his chicken, right? Yeah.
There's pathos in this movie. There's so much human drama in this movie. He collected worms the whole movie for his beloved chicken, and now it's dead.
And so, but Yin says, he said, Braddock, I will release you if Braddock confesses to war crimes.
Yes.
Committing war crimes. And you later see the confession they write, and it's like it's just like, I committed war crimes. Love, Colonel Braddock.
I despoiled my beloved country. We misread it as saying my country of the People's Republic of Vietnam.
So, and there's this one point where there's an ARVN guy who kind of helps him out. At one point, he gives him a beer that looks like it has the label from a Kikkoman soy sauce bottle on it.
It's so old, it's now fermented into beer.
There's one of the members who is a captain is a traitor, and he's helping Colonel Yin now. Also, by the way, Professor Toru Tanaka, also known as Sub-Zero from The Running Man, is in this.
Yes. Used to be Sub-Zero, now Plain Zero.
He
Yes.
cuts his victims into bloody, quivering sushi. Is the line.
Classic.
And the lady who
movie.
picks him says she likes her men big and cuddly.
Oh,
before Arnold Schwarzenegger wraps barbed wire around his neck and rips his throat out.
Yep. Classic film.
Or as he says to Killian, I'm going to take that contract, rub it into your stomach, and break your goddamn spine.
Classic.
Great movie.
If only Jim Brown was in this movie, that would have been good. Yeah.
Last year's winners, last year's losers.
Losers. Fireball.
Yeah. Fireball to Wardrobe. That's a great movie. I watched that
so amazing.
not that long ago. Then the opera guy. "Ooh."
A real opera singer.
He was a real opera singer. Yeah. Yes, that movie is great.
Yeah.
Great
fine
film.
Fine film.
Yes, Mick Fleetwood from Fleetwood Mac shows up in it.
Well, speaking
and
of
Dweezil Zappa.
But where's Moonbase Zappa, huh? Come on.
So, yes, lots of torturing in this movie. And at some point, a French smuggler shows up who's smuggling heroin, who's allied with Colonel Yin, but it's like not clear why. We did go kind of fast through that scene, to be honest.
Francois shows up. He says, look at my new helicopter. So he comes in with a Huey helicopter.
Oh, by the way, there was a guy at the beginning who tries to escape over the bridge because they're up on these cliffs.
The impenetrable bridge, they say. The bridge is impenetrable. They make that clear.
And why is it impenetrable, Max?
Because there's a guy with a flamethrower standing on it who will set you on fire and turn you into a dummy, and you'll fall off the bridge and then fall down a waterfall.
Because it's always smart to fire a flamethrower onto a wooden rope bridge.
You see in that scene, the bridge is on fire. It is burning. The impenetrable bridge, yes.
So at one point, Colonel Yin calls in Braddock in between the endless torture sessions.
It goes on forever.
And he says, your wife wrote you a letter. She's had you declared dead, and she's going to marry another man.
Yeah, it's like your wife is planning to remarry, and then later he says, your ex-wife finally sent you a letter. There's so many things to unpack here. So in the time in between, I guess she got remarried. Colonel Yin knows about this somehow. He somehow knows about this random woman in America. But after marrying, she wrote him a letter Where did she send this letter? To where?
We see. We see because they show it to the screen.
They show the letter. It's on the middle of the screen.
It's addressed to Colonel Braddock, some assortment of numbers, San Francisco, California, with a zip code.
With like a P.O. There's a P.O. box or something. How did Yen get this letter?
She sent it to, what's that called? General Delivery.
Where did this come from?
Also, her return address, I'll have to criticize her. She says she's in Cincinnati, but she puts no zip code on her return address. So how is the postal office supposed to get her the letter?
My theory is that the production team were putting that letter together and they said, what's the zip code for Cincinnati, Ohio? And they didn't know, and the internet didn't exist. So they're like, whatever.
Well, and Colonel Yin burns the letter. So.
Yeah, he doesn't read it. Yeah.
So Braddock.
That's more torture right there.
That's more torture. And then talk about our friend, the Australian man who shows up for like 10 minutes in the middle of this movie.
Yeah, this stuff's crazy. So Francois says, Francois, the drug smuggler, he's like, man, you got to watch out. Francois even said, Francois says, why are these POWs still alive? You should kill them at once. Why on earth are you doing this? And Yen says, I want Braddock to confess to war crimes. That's why.
And then I'll kill them.
Francois was like, okay, but there's POW search teams who are around here. They might stumble upon this place, and that would be disastrous for the two of us. And then we see a guy from one of these search teams, or, well, it's not a team, but we'll find that out later. This guy...
And by later, we mean like 7 minutes later.
What an interesting interlude this is. Some guy, I wish I could remember his name, Emmerich or
Emerson.
Emerson. Yeah, Emerson comes in.
Clyde Emerson.
He's an Australian guy. You know that because he says, I'm an Australian, and he says the word mate like 6 or 7 times. But he's wandering around this camp with a camera, making no effort to conceal himself.
In an Uzi and these ridiculous shorts.
He's like from Rhodesia or something with these shorts. It's crazy. And he's just snapping pictures of guys.
Clearly visible to the...
Like 5 feet away from them. And... like it makes
capture him.
It makes you wonder, because if you see this, there's white people in military uniforms with hoeing in the middle of Vietnam. You know you've just stumbled upon something super secret, and he's making no effort to conceal himself. It's like if you're like, oh, I'm going to be in Belize, and oh, I got lost in the jungle, and oh, there's this big mansion, there's armed guards everywhere, and wait, that's Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey, what are you doing here? I thought you died a couple years ago. Hold on. Let me start taking pictures of you. Wait, what's going on here? Why are you pointing guns at me? I mean, come on. Clyde, what are you doing? Emerson.
But they capture him, obviously.
Obviously.
And he's like, I'm an inspector from the International Freedom House.
The International House of Freedom.
And I have other people, other teams. If I put a beacon in the jungle, and if I don't respond to the beacon soon, they're going to come to this position and find me.
I got to give the signal. What's the signal? I'm not telling you, mate.
And so they throw him in the stockade for a couple minutes, and he's like, well, actually, I'm completely alone. No one knows I'm here. I'm just a journalist. And then they take him out, and they're like they put a gun to his head, and they're like, we're going to execute you for crimes. And by the way, one of the other tortures earlier is they pretend to shoot a guy, but it's blank.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the gun.
Yeah.
And they put the gun to his head, and he's like, the people are like, oh, don't worry. There's no bullets in the gun.
They're just trying to fool you or something, and it's like, well, it's really convincing. And then he gets shot. And in a normal movie, this would be horrifying, but it looks so goofy.
I feel bad that we're laughing.
They put
this
like
is taking us back to the laughing with the plane crash thing. Like it's a little bit.
I feel bad for this actor too, because they clearly put some kind of explosive device on his temple and blew it up. That must have been terrible for him.
The look on his face, it's just, and it's like, okay, there's 10 minutes of the movie.
He's got his eyes wide because he's thinking, oh man, I'm about to sue these guys for so much money. There's no way I'm giving up hearing in one ear for this piece of crap movie. But okay, that's the saga of Emerson is now over.
And the movie still goes on for like another 40 minutes.
It's crazy. But I guess it's giving lip service to like the idea of these search teams. And also, I think this guy is a reference to a certain individual because while I was researching for this episode, I stumbled across the fact that Howard Dean's brother, Charles Dean, was murdered in Laos in 1975. And
yeah, that's right.
He was traveling with an Australian national, an Australian reporter, just like this guy, Australian reporter. And the two of them, their fates would not be revealed until I think 2002 or something like that.
They were murdered by the Pathet Lao. Was it
Pathet
74,
Lao,
75? Somewhere around there, mid-70s.
Yeah, yeah.
They were tourists.
Yes. They were just traveling just traveling through the country. And they were arrested and murdered. And I think the man's girlfriend was elsewhere, and she brought attention to their plight or whatever. And their fate was unknown for a really long time. And I think this character is a reference to the Australian journalist. That's my theory. Yeah.
Well, they could have done a better way to honor
a better
him.
tribute to this man. Yeah, because he comes
Because
out.
I'm sure Max will have the picture up on this. It's just outrageous.
It's absolutely outrageous. Emerson, they depict. It's not flattering the way they depict this guy because I think he's actually a pretty good actor, to be honest.
He's trying. Everyone else is kind of phoning it in, but he's like legitimately trying.
I think he gives the best performance of the film. Him and the guy who loves the Yankees, I think, are the two.
Yeah, I'm naming my kid Joe DiMaggio after the best Yankee ever. I think Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth may have something to say about that.
Yeah, come on, give me a break.
But so eventually Braddock escapes.
Yes,
he does. He pretends to commit. Colonel Yin gives an opium overdose to one of the soldiers who has malaria.
They say it's quinine, but it's actually opium. And then this is just out of pocket. He sets him on fire, which once again more torture. He sets the malaria-stricken guy on fire while he's still alive, and it's just terrible. It's terrible. And then Braddock, in response to this, pretends to be dead and instead kills his guard and
snaps
escapes.
His neck.
Yeah,
of course.
More neck snapping. Now we're really in the sneaking part of the movie.
Yes. We've ended the torture. We've entered the sneaking.
Well, there's still some more torture. I mean, come on, they can't help themselves. But now we got some sneaking mixed in there. Because this is the part of the movie where, for reasons I don't quite understand, he gets into a People's Republic of Vietnam Army uniform. I guess he wants to blend in. This white man with blonde hair and a giant beard is gonna blend in. He picks up the flamethrower and then sets the guy on fire on the bridge.
He destroys the whole bridge. Is destroyed.
The impenetrable bridge. Yeah, there's no way to.
So he and the guy whose chicken got choked.
It was so tragic when he got his chicken choked. When Colonel Yin
choked his chicken.
That was the cruelest torture of all. The look in his eyes. It was just. And I should say, Colonel Yin is a pretty silly character. He's an absolute sadist. He's super duper mean. He speaks English perfectly. And in fact, never speaks Vietnamese the entire movie.
He speaks English to the other Vietnamese people. So they go after Braddock after he's escaped with choked chicken guy. I forget the character's name. I'm sorry.
Zenonio or Zeno or something.
Whatever. So they're
Italian.
escaping down this. Talk about this scene because you texted me about this.
Oh my God. Because I was skimming through this movie just because I was curious what it even was. And so apparently Emerson left a secret bag full of climbing equipment somewhere. And Braddock knows all about climbing equipment.
Too stupid to get a chance to use it, but okay.
Right. The homing beacon stuff was fake. The team was fake. But the climbing equipment was something that was real. They find it, and they're going to rappel down this rock face for some reason.
To escape.
To escape, but then come back later. So Italian guy starts going down. Mazzilli? Mazzilli. There you go.
Yes,
there's a Z in there somewhere.
Mazzilli, yeah.
But Italian guy goes down the rope, and a Vietnamese guy starts grabbing the rope and he starts going down, and Braddock spins around with his Uzi that he got from Emerson and shoots the rope. And it's so damn funny. The guy falls down. He's a dummy. There's a dummy thrown off a cliff. The dummy hits a rock, and the dummy's head falls off. And clear as day, there's this headless dummy just flying down the side of this mountain. And it comes to rest, and then the head bounces next to the corpse. And that's just so ridiculous. Oh my God. When I saw that, I knew, oh man, I got to show this.
So Braddock comes back to the camp. He frees the other prisoners. He kills most of the bad guy, the regular soldiers. Professor Tanaka gets shot by the traitor who redeems himself, but he also gets killed too.
Absolutely tragic, by the way. There was a scene where they forced them to fight, more torture, and Professor Tanaka was also getting in on the action until his weakness, which is being kicked in the balls, was used against him. Because
getting kicked in the balls, my only weakness.
Because Braddock is a kung fu master.
Yes. Well, and then he shows it at the end. He's destroyed the camp. Everyone's about to escape, but he confronts Colonel Yin.
Well, Yin thinks everyone has escaped because they look around for Yin. They can't find him. Helicopter takes off, and Yin thinks the coast is clear. So he comes out of a spider hole, and he's looking around, and then suddenly Braddock is in the hut with him, and a completely absurd scene happens
where they have a kung fu fight.
Yeah, they do the thing where it's like...
He's like, I knew you wanted to test me the whole time. I'm not going to use a gun. It would have been funnier if the scene ended and Braddock, who has a gun, at that point had just shot him. That would have been funnier. But no.
I'm not going to stoop to your level.
Honor before reason.
Yeah. And Braddock throws the gun. Well, first Braddock pretends to shoot him, but it's empty, which is a callback to earlier in the movie. So I guess he planned all this stuff ahead of time. What if Yin pulled his gun out and just shot Braddock? Think about that.
Yeah.
But whatever. Braddock's gun is empty. He pretends to shoot him, and then they start kung fu fighting. And Braddock has like made a gi out of tarp or something, and he's got a black belt on, and they're just awkwardly kind of fighting each other for many, many minutes until
he beats Colonel Yin, but Yin is just there.
Yeah, Yin is just
He's
sitting
just sitting
there,
defeated.
Yeah, I guess he gives up, and Braddock starts walking away. It's just...
He just hits a detonator he pulls out and just blows up the building that Yin is in. So I guess he died. I guess he could have escaped because he gave him plenty of time to escape. But,
Yeah,
whatever.
He could have blown him up in the first place. Why walk in there?
Why resort to the fist fight with this guy?
Because he needed to prove himself. He needed to know who was the more powerful man.
Mazzilli was captured by some Vietnamese, and they've recaptured him. So they all escape. So there's another prisoner to back up Braddock's story.
Yes.
That's the calling back to the first movie.
Yeah.
When people are like, we're not sure if we believe him. There's at least one other American. And then some Arvin guys, too, who go with them.
I think
a couple of them
right.
get killed during the escape, but they're kind of disposable. So
Yeah. Maybe that was part of the 10 POWs who died. Well, that's... Oh, my God. And that's the other thing, too, is that he signed the confession.
He did sign the confession.
He signed the confession. So, like, the whole point was to get Braddock to sign the confession. And yet the torture does not end. The prison stay does not end. So why?
Not enough chickens have been choked yet.
You need to befriend another chicken, and then I'll choke that one too.
Remember eye contact. That's the most important thing when choking a chicken is eye contact.
But this goes to the idea about the POW MIA thing is why would they keep these people? What is the benefit? And maybe one answer is torture. These guys are sadist jerks. We can't believe what they say. They tortured our guys in the past.
Because they did. They absolutely
They did.
John McCain couldn't raise his arms above his shoulders because he was tortured so terribly.
So maybe an explanation is they want to keep them alive because they just want to keep torturing them.
And also, and again, the way the Vietnamese, and this plays into like we talked about earlier, we understand the emotional, why people believe this is that why would they believe we could trust the North Vietnamese? The North Vietnamese were torturing our prisoners and treating them horribly in North Vietnam, like the ones who were released in Operation Homecoming. So, like, there is a reason why people will believe, the Vietnamese, like, of course, we can't trust them. They tortured our guys before.
Yeah. And I get the argument that, maybe these guys are not trustworthy. So when you say, release more POWs, and they say, what POWs? We don't have any more POWs. I mean, I kind of get the idea of why you can't entirely trust them. And I wonder why were our guys tortured? Like, for what reason? Was it for information or just because for catharsis?
I guess I think that, and we were talking about this. We had taken a brief break actually while we were recording. We were talking about, like, for most of the 20th century, most powers that we fought against that took POWs treated our POWs terribly.
Yeah.
The North Vietnamese torture POWs, for sure. The Koreans, the North Koreans and Chinese treat American POWs very badly. A lot of brainwashing, forcing people to sign confessions. That was one thing that actually tripped up another famous American fighter pilot, Walker Mahurin, a World War II ace who was shot down in Korea, was forced to sign a confession, basically because he was tortured, saying that he dropped, plague, diseased animals or trying to spread diseases or something. Like, I mean, so you have the North Koreans. That's where the whole Manchurian Candidate thing comes from, because people were tortured and all that. And then in World War II, the Japanese treated POWs horrendously.
Yeah.
And the Germans too. I mean, the Germans intentionally tried to find POWs who they thought were Jewish to send to concentration camps rather than hold them in POW camps. I mean, like, there's really, so you can see this long line of where people would say, of course our POWs are being mistreated, and of course they've held these people because everyone who takes our POWs treats them terribly.
Yeah. So I guess there's arguments there.
Yeah. Oh, and Francois gets killed too. He gets shot by Colonel Yin. He gets betrayed
because Colonel Yin wants to use his helicopter to go look for Braddock some more, and Francois is like, "Buddy, I'm sorry, I've got so many drugs to deliver. I really don't have time for this crap. Like, this is your problem. You should have killed these guys a long time ago, so I'm just leaving." And then Yin, shoots him, and his drug guys in berets switch loyalty to work for Yin.
Until they're promptly killed by Chuck Norris. But
right, yes, of course. With his Uzi. Chuck Norris uses an Uzi quite a bit with that tiny little magazine, and he's endlessly shooting with it.
Yeah. Talk about endless shooting. We'll talk about that in Missing in Action 3.
God,
but
dude.
I do want to mention before we get to Missing in Action 3 is I did another flash fiction story. This was a Rambo one.
Oh, yes.
Because at the end of Rambo 2, like, the bad guy's chasing them in a helicopter and he blows it up with a law or an RPG. It kind of switches the cuts, the way they cut it. It switches between. And I did a flash fiction one where he, like, does that and he blows it up. And he's like, oh, finally. And he looks back and then he remembers RPGs have backblasts.
Oh,
the last words of it are, oh, shit.
Well, it gets back to the base. Well, there were some POWs, trust me.
Here's their charred remains. Sorry, I killed them by blowing.
But, Braddock, go find more, okay?
Or else.
Or I'll, gosh, this is very embarrassing.
Okay, Missing in Action 3.
Yeah, Missing in Action 3. No, sorry, it's Braddock. Missing in Action 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this one throws a real wrench into the whole already convoluted and confusing story we've got going here.
Yeah, the lore gets so confused by all this because at the beginning of this movie, Braddock is in Saigon during the fall of Saigon in 1975. Huh?
This lends credence, honestly, to your alternate timelines, like alternate universe theory.
Because, like, okay, the U.S. leaves Vietnam in 1973, but South Vietnam and North Vietnam are still at war for another 2 years. And 75 is when that's that famous iconic picture of the last helicopter out of Saigon.
Because there was still an American embassy.
Yeah. But yeah, they were evacuating out of the embassy. And I guess Braddock was there. So he's out of the POW camp.
Honestly, the alternate timelines thing is the only way to explain this. Because in the second one, Yin says, I've been keeping them here for years.
Plural.
And the implication, well, in the first one, it said 7 years, or maybe it's 10. Who knows? Who the fuck cares, I guess, at this point.
And he was a POW for 7 or 8 months, and then he was missing in action for 7 years. So did they say he died, but he didn't really die, so he was now missing in action? I don't know. I don't
And why
know.
did his wife write a letter to him if she thought he was dead?
Right. Well, that's the other thing too, is that Chuck Norris thinks she was dead because he's under the impression he doesn't have a wife anymore. In the third movie, it's like, I saw her die in Saigon or something like that.
No, in this third movie, he's married to a Vietnamese lady.
Yes. Sorry, forgot to mention that. So she doesn't live in San Francisco or
Lynn
Cincinnati.
Braddock. Lynn Tan Braddock.
Right. So maybe he's a bigamist and he's married to two women at the same time. Maybe that, huh?
Evangelical Christian Chuck Norris would not appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because he is. He's super conservative and
In real life, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
He's also very old now.
Very old. I mean, he
Like
was
84.
He was in his 40s in the 80s. So, I mean, do the math here, people. He's
Yeah.
pretty old. Not too old to be in one of the Expendables movies,
He was in the second one.
the second one.
But he didn't do a lot of moving. He did the Steven Seagal thing where you don't move a whole lot, So, Steve,
Or the Charles Bronson thing in Death Wish 4.
yeah,
Just
the
blow him
guns.
up.
What was it
Fred
that
Williamson.
Fred Williamson told us?
The actors get older and older, and the guns get bigger and bigger, which rings true for this movie. I'll tell you what.
It does, because there is an abomination of a weapon.
Friend of the show, Fred Williamson. I know you're part of the Patreon, and you're our favorite fan, Fred Williamson.
He was an awesome guy to meet in real life.
was extremely funny.
He was hilarious.
hysterical. Very
Love that guy.
wonderful human being. Love him. But yeah, so Braddock leaves Saigon and it jumps forward.
Yes. So we've got new wife. He
Yeah.
has Vietnamese wife who gets left behind. He thinks she gets killed, but she wasn't. He's like getting on the last helicopter, and I guess they're gonna let the women and children on, but not this guy. And this guy gets like pushed down, and he shoots Braddock in the back, but that never comes back again. But then the door gunner like blows him away with an M60 at point blank range, and the guy gets ripped up a bit, but like he should have been like chopped in half because he's like point blank range. He blows this guy away.
Should have been RoboCop style. You know?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But like this is the most we've seen Braddock get hurt throughout all of these movies. If you don't count the time he got shot in that dream where he blew himself up. He's got so much determination as he pulls the pins out of that. I know what I must do.
So Braddock, he goes back to the U.S. and it's 10
Yeah.
or 12 years later. I can't remember.
I think he's in Thailand when it goes forward, so I'm not sure.
1985 or 87.
Yeah, he
and
gets approached by CIA guys or whatever.
Yeah.
who say, "Don't go back to Vietnam." Okay.
your wife is still there.
Yeah.
And then he gets approached by a Catholic priest,
Yes.
a Reverend Polanski.
Yeah. Reverend Polanski. Interesting choice of a name.
Huh.
Very interesting.
Must not have been intentional. They might have just pulled that name out of a book or something.
I would hope so. I would really hope so.
Because Reverend Polanski runs a orphanage for
Amerasian.
children. So they're children of American servicemen and local women.
And Braddock has a kid. So his wife was apparently pregnant when he
Even though
left.
she does not look pregnant whatsoever.
Not at all. Looks very much not pregnant. But
And he's like, "Oh man, I'm sorry this wife got burned up. Thankfully, I've got another one back home who can send me letters addressed to San Francisco but make their way to rural Vietnam."
and oh no, she's going to get married again. Who cares? You're apparently divorced for many years at this
Divorced
point.
or she says she had you declared dead.
Right. Huh. The questions mount. But there's a revelation. You have a son. You have a son in Vietnam, and he wants to go get that son. So really, for a narrative purpose, I know why they did this. They want Braddock to not seem like a bad guy. He doesn't want to seem like a deadbeat dad who had a kid out of wedlock and just left him there, and it's like, whatever, I don't care. So they want to make him to be a good guy, so he totally thought his wife was super dead, and he had no clue he had a kid, but it gives him an emotional reason to go back and save the kids.
Well, that's why I was watching all those Spider-Man cartoons.
He got back to America, and instead of being like, "Oh man, I got to go find my wife," instead, I need to crack open another Coors. I wonder what's going to happen to the Shocker. Oh no, they're talking about me on the news again. I'm going to kick this television.
And your landlord's going to get pissed because he just broke his TV.
Well, that's why he went to Vietnam, is he realized he'd have to pay his deposit. And he knew he wasn't going to be able to watch any more Spider-Man cartoons, so I guess I got to go back to Vietnam.
So he goes to rescue his son.
Yeah.
Infiltration, more sneaking.
Oh, so much sneaking. I think this is the most sneaky movie out of all of them.
And then Reverend Polanski at one point is like, you've got to sneak towards the town. This is where your wife and son are. But wear this patty hat to disguise yourself.
This tall, bearded white man. Wear these pajamas and this rice hat. You'll blend right in.
And he meets his wife and his son, and then they get captured, and the wife gets murdered.
Yeah.
And then the son, he gets taken. And again, we're back, so we did some sneaking, but now it's time for the torture.
Yeah, the torture scene, the obligatory torture scene. And by the way, we skipped through a lot of this movie, so if we're incorrect about anything, we're not sorry.
We're not sorry. But we could kind of get the gist just by watching it at 1.9 speed.
But this bizarre torture thing where he's got a collar and he's being electrified.
Looks like they're about to it looks like at first they're going to put the clamps on his nipples, but then they just put it around his neck.
Because it's 1987, but Chuck Norris needs to let you know he still looks good without a shirt on. So he's shirtless in this room. His son is in the room. They've got him set up in a contraption where somehow if Chuck Norris's heels hit the floor, a shotgun will shoot his son. Huh? What's going on? But then, a trick. The shotgun is not loaded. Made you seem really dumb, Chuck Norris. Our torture is so complete now.
So devious.
Fooled you.
Next, we'll choke your chicken for
We'll
you.
make you befriend a chicken and then choke it later. Truly. These are the most devious tortures thought of by any man. But okay, his son's not dead, and then they move him to another room so they can devise another ingenious torture for him. And then he just snaps some guy's neck and picks up a gun, and now we're in shooty, sneaky part of the movie. Most of the torture is done from this point forward. So he breaks out. But I believe his son has been transferred.
Yes, his son has been transferred with the other Amerasian children.
Why are they what are they doing with these kids? Who cares? I don't know why. Who cares? There's this camp. It's sunny. It's the next day.
Looks like they filmed this one in Mexico.
Yeah, it very much looks like Mexico.
Because they filmed Rambo 2 in Mexico.
Yeah. It's very sunny and dry and arid. Unlike the last movie, which was rainy Philippines. This is now arid Mexico. And the funniest part of this whole movie, and it's tragic because it comes before a terrible scene of, it's just, I'm not even going to talk about it. It's terrible. But Braddock comes in to be the hero.
And by the way, talk about the gun he has.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, he infiltrated the Vietnam with, it's so dumb. They have like this plane, it pulls up, he jumps out with a parachute and like...
by the way, this plane is flying, we forgot. This plane is flying at like 10 feet above the water.
It's so insanely dangerous. It has to be a toy. It must be a model. There's no way anyone could fly a plane that low. It's horrifying, really, watching it happen. And Braddock jumps out of the plane. He has a parachute, and he also has this stealth boat that looks like it came out of Thunder in Paradise with Hulk Hogan. And he drives this stealth boat around and opens this tube, and it's got this wacky gun in it.
This gun.
It's an H&K G3, I think.
It's an H&K G3 with a 30-round magazine. And by the way, remember, a G3 is a battle rifle, not an assault rifle, so it fires a full-size rifle round.
Yeah.
So it's got a huge-ass 30-round magazine. They put
the attachment.
It looks like a rotary grenade launcher.
But these are, well, it's apparently they're rocket-propelled grenades, as we see later in the movie.
And then it also has a retractable bayonet on it, too.
It's very important because...
the guns truly got bigger as he got older.
So in the scene, he saves the kids. He walks in the room. He's got this thing. He extends the bayonet and stabs this bad guy who's bad. He's a bad man. And then he shoots a grenade at this guy who flies out the freaking door.
Point-blank range, by the way.
This guy who was impaled, he flies out the door, lands on the ground, and explodes. We were laughing so hard. The absurdity of that scene is just, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Then Chuck Norris does some more mowing down of He firing off the grenade launcher, blowing up shit left and right.
He's not rolling around. He's not doing acrobatics. He's literally standing in place, pivoting around. The sound design on the gun is good because it sounds big and heavy and imposing. And he's doing some grenades. He's shooting some rocket-propelled grenades at watchtowers, which then explode dramatically. One of the other funniest parts of the movie, there's a guy cranking on a siren outside. And he's cranking on it, and Chuck Norris is still shooting people, and the guy with the siren is not shooting back. He's just doing more cranking, and then Chuck Norris gets around to shooting him. He like reloads, gets the new magazine, and then just blasts this guy to smithereens.
Hits him in the forehead and just riddles him.
What did this guy do to you, Chuck? He was just doing his job, damn it.
He was just, yeah.
He's a conscientious objector. All he does is crank the siren.
That's right. He was going to choke his chicken later. Oh, no. And he took that away from him.
He took that away from him. You bastard. And he breaks open the bamboo cage or metal, whatever
He frees
cage.
the kids.
Yeah.
He gets them in and we fast forwarded kind of through this part.
Yeah.
But they have to get them to the Thai border. You know, the Thai-Vietnamese border, Max.
Yeah, the border between Vietnam and Thailand. Everyone knows about that. Cambodia, Laos, I don't know what those are. I'm not sure what those things are. And it's so funny, too, because they're in this truck and endless scenes of them getting shot at by helicopters and stuff. And they get to an airfield. There's a plane. What is it?
It's a C-47, like a DC-3. And they get in that, but it gets riddled by the Vietnamese. And Chuck Norris apparently knows how to fly an airplane now.
Yeah, I mean, airplanes, helicopters, same thing pretty much, I think.
Yeah. And it crashes.
It's funny because when they were at the airport, he says, oh, we're 80 miles from the Thai. Well, no.
We're 50 miles from the Thai border.
We're 50 miles from the Thai border. And then he's in the plane and they're flying and he gets on the radio and says, American military, I'm 80 miles from the Thai border.
I'm flying straight to Hanoi.
Sorry, I got confused. Help.
Well, also there's like a pilot who he like takes hostage at first, and as they're rolling off, like the guy gets killed by like the Vietnamese shooting at the plane, and his like son comes up later and he's like, okay, son, like he just throws the guy to the ground, like, okay, son, take a seat.
He says, take a seat. Yeah, this is normal for me, son, and it will be normal for you very soon. Because the killing does not stop.
So they fly. They're running to the border, and they get to the border, and then Chuck Norris has to kill some people, some border guards.
I'm sorry, he has to sneak first. He has to sneak
more
around.
sneaking.
And it probably kicks some people in the balls a few times, stabs some people. Then he starts just shooting. He jumps through a window and he's shooting his gun while jumping through.
And kills a guy right in front of a Ho Chi Minh poster.
Yeah, take that, ho.
Yeah, and they're at the border, by the way. This is the border post, and at the other side, there's a bridge over the border. And the other side are the American Green Berets, but they can't come over because that's the Thai border.
Yeah, there's like no Thai military there. The Thai military doesn't care about the border between it and Vietnam.
It's enforced by the Americans.
And then the main bad guy, Vietnamese guy, whom we haven't mentioned at all because he doesn't matter.
He's cut, replace. He's Colonel Yin version 2.
James Hong, guy with beard. He's an amalgamation of all these guys. Evil Vietnamese torturing sadist guy.
Who probably likes to sneak too, but not as much.
The sneaky Vietnamese guy. He's co-pilot in this helicopter.
Well, he's actually not co-pilot because he shows up with a Hind helicopter, which doesn't look anything.
Heavy quotes around Hind.
Well, there's American helicopters on the other side. One of which appears to be like a news helicopter that they just stuck some fake gun pods on. But the Americans can't go over the border, and the helicopter shows up, and Chuck Norris has been injured by a grenade blast.
Shockingly, yeah.
It looks like they slathered some tomato sauce on his wounds.
He's like, that's all you got? I took 2 of these just a couple years ago, and I'm fine. And the evil Vietnamese guy.
So his son helps him shoot his AK-47, which hits the pilot of the Hind. Yeah. And then the other bad insert paste villain here tries to fly it, but clearly can't. And they just crashes and it explodes. And then the children run over the border, and Reverend Polanski is with them too. We forgot he's also with them too. Yeah, the most important character, Polanski.
You've been by my side all along, Reverend Polanski. Yes.
They run over the bridge, and the Green Berets run over the bridge, and everyone's happy.
Flagrantly violating the sacred
territorial integrity of the Vietnamese-Thai border.
Here we go. Now it's time for the third Vietnam War. The movie's begging the Americans to go over the border. Like the bad guys, like, they would not dare. They would not dare. Do not worry about them. And it's like, please, save us, American military. Intervene, please. And the kids run over the bridge, and it says there's, I think, 15,000 Amerasian children trapped in Vietnam.
And there they will remain, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris, they never made a Missing in Action 4.
Yeah.
Mike in Action.
Mike in Action. Yeah.
I'm back, bitches.
You might have shot me, but I'm still alive. I'm like 50 Cent.
I may have been shot and the boat got blown up, but me and Tuck, we're back.
Mike and Tuck. You could do one with Braddock's son. 40 years later, you know, he's an adult. Now he's going to go to Burma or something. Rip off Rambo again. Keep ripping off Rambo. Then Braddock's son goes to Mexico and fights cartels.
Why not? Why?
Found in action.
Found in action.
Braddock 2, Missing in Action, Part 5.
Oh my God, this series, man.
What a bizarre series, because it's know, wild swings.
I'm looking at the amount of time we've recorded so far. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
This movie, man.
All three of the movies.
It inspired me to go sneaking later.
11 o'clock at night, put on a sweater and some black pants.
And a patty hat.
Then go out and do some parkour against a white wall.
Yeah, that's right. These movies are crazy, as you can tell.
Very, very silly. Very silly. And I mean, you know, there's legitimate like pathos at the back of it. Like once again, you know, the P.O.W. MIA.
Oh, on the issue, not in the movies, though.
Yeah, no, not in the. Well, I mean, the third one a little bit, I guess. I mean, they gave him a little bit of pathos. Oh, I have a son. Oh, I better go save him. But like before that, he's a pretty cut and paste two-dimensional character in these movies. There's not much to Braddock.
Yeah,
he loves Spider-Man. He loves beer.
He loves keeping his shirt open.
He strips in front of women, but isn't really that
sex,
interested.
Though. Yeah, he's not. You know, he's a man on a mission. He's a monk.
Yeah. Not until every last POW is back.
Finally, then he can really let loose. Maybe if only Tucker were there, they could go visit some of those brothels. Because his ex-wife left him, or
didn't,
or his second wife, or his
other wife. He's got so many wives he can't keep track of them. He needs to stop getting married. That's why he's not interested in the lady in the first movie. So he's also secretly living out of time and he's sliding between dimensions. Man in the High Castle style. Mr. Dagomi in the different universe. That's the secret story of Missing in Action.
Man, what a series.
But a lot of fun watching them, even though we did fast forward through a lot of it, you know.
Someone should do a super cut of all the sneaking and put it on YouTube. It would be like 45 minutes.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of B-roll of sneaking in this episode to fill the runtime. Just lots of kicking people in the balls, and yeah, it's great.
Snapping their necks. There was never a neck that Braddock admit that he didn't want to snap.
I'm just so sad Professor Toru Tanaka wasn't in more of it. He was great. He was so good when he like nodded his head in the background and
then got shot
and punched a guy once and got kicked in the balls. It was great. Emerson was a great character.
But not very smart, though.
He's
pretty dumb.
In a different movie, if he made some different choices, he would have been a great secondary protagonist, but unfortunately...
Unfortunately, he decided to take pictures 5 feet away from people, clearly, and not even behind them, like to their side, where they clearly would be able to see him in their peripheral vision.
Rest in peace, Colonel Yen. Rest in peace, Francois. The only bad guy with any sense in all these movies.
Yeah, the only one with any sort of sense whatsoever.
General Tran or Train.
Yeah, General Tran.
Yeah.
And his pink sheets.
His tiny pink bed. His pretty princess bed that he sleeps in at night. What a great ride throughout all these films.
Man, this is a film. These are films.
Yeah.
But talking about a very interesting and important issue.
Yeah, and little known, because the P.O.W. MIA issue these days. I mean, the flag is obviously everywhere, and the flag. I don't want to conflate the flag with the conspiracy theory stuff. Families of these people who were in captivity for all these years, and it really is a horrible thing. We like to keep it fun and irreverent, but once again, not mocking these people in real life. We're mocking this goofy movie.
Well, and one of the first one, it says the character developed by what character was developed? Or character by. It's like who created?
I really have no idea. It must be some kind of legal smokescreen to hide the fact that they're 100% just ripping off Rambo Part 2 before it comes out. So they're just making this ramshackle production to get it out as quick as possible.
Man, this has been fun. This is very different from our other episodes because we did talk a lot about history. We got some alternate history in there.
Yeah. And it was a more modern setting. We're giving Stalin a break for now.
We'll be back with the North Star / armored attack.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is that the North Star has a secret sequel. I don't even know how to describe it. You'll have to be left in suspense until we finally do that episode. It is truly incredible. But yeah, I gotta say, what a great experience this was.
It was. This is awesome. Well, this is Matt signing off.
And this is Max signing off.
Have a good day, guys.
Sorry, won't happen again. It's not real! He's just trying to scare you! I got a lousy sense of humor!